Hey everyone, I'm the storyteller, and I'm here to help you relax tonight. I know a lot of you use this video to fall asleep, so before we start, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, tell me in the comments, where are you from and what time is it there? Now get comfortable, take a deep breath, and just relax. The Hiking Trail Stranger. It was October of 2019. I was 23 years old and had just moved to Colorado for a new job. I didn't know anyone in town yet, so I spent most of my weekends hiking alone. That Saturday morning was perfect. Clear blue sky, cool air, golden leaves everywhere. I picked a trail I'd never done before. Eagles Rest Trail. It was supposed to be moderate difficulty, about 8 miles round trip. I started early, around 7 a.m. The parking lot was empty except for one other car. A dirty white sedan. I didn't think much about it. The first hour was peaceful. Just me, the birds, and the crunch of leaves under my boots. Then I noticed someone behind me on the trail. A man maybe 50 yards back. He was wearing all black. Black jacket, black pants, black baseball cap. I kept walking. Lots of people hike alone. No big deal. But every time I looked back, he was there. Same distance. Never closer, never farther. Just there. I decided to test something. I stopped to tie my shoe. Took my time with it. When I looked back, he had stopped too. He was pretending to look at something off the trail. My stomach dropped a little, but I told myself I was being paranoid. I kept hiking. Faster now. My heart was beating harder, and not just from the exercise. Every few minutes I glanced back. He was always there. Always the same distance. About 3 miles in, I came to a fork in the trail. The main trail went left. A smaller path went right, marked Creek Overlook, 0.5 miles. I took the smaller path. I walked fast down that path. Once I was around a bend and out of sight, I ducked behind a large boulder just off the trail. I held my breath and waited. Less than a minute later, I heard footsteps. They paused at the fork. Then they came down the path toward me. The man in black walked right past my hiding spot. He was looking around, clearly searching for something. For me. I stayed frozen behind that rock for what felt like forever. Maybe 20 minutes. I heard him coming back down the path. He walked past again, back toward the main trail. I waited another 10 minutes before I moved. Then I practically ran back down the trail. I didn't care about finishing the hike anymore. I just wanted to get to my car. When I got to the parking lot, the white sedan was gone. My car was the only one there. I jumped in, locked the doors, and drove away fast. I never went back to that trail. But here's the part that still gives me chills. About a month later, I was watching the local news. They showed a picture that made my blood run cold. It was him. The man in black from the trail. He'd been arrested for attacking a woman on a different hiking trail. She'd been hiking alone just like me. But she didn't notice him following her until it was too late. She survived barely. She said he came out of nowhere and tried to drag her off the trail. The news said they'd been looking for him for months. He'd been stalking women on hiking trails all over the county. They think he'd been doing it for years. I think about that day all the time. What if I hadn't tested him by stopping? What if I hadn't hidden? What if I kept walking and ended up in some isolated spot with no one around? I still hike, but never alone. And I always trust my gut when something feels wrong. Sometimes the paranoia that saves your life isn't paranoia at all. The perfect babysitter. It was the spring of 2021. I had just had my second baby and was desperate for a break. My husband worked long hours and I was drowning in diapers and sleepless nights. My neighbor mentioned she knew a girl who babysat. Sarah. She was 19, studying early childhood education at the local community college. My neighbor said she was wonderful with kids. I called Sarah. She sounded sweet on the phone. Very enthusiastic about meeting my kids. We set up a time for her to come over. When Sarah arrived, she was exactly what I'd hoped for. Bright smile, cheerful voice, great with both kids immediately. My 3-year-old daughter loved her right away. Even the baby seemed calm in her arms. We hired her for twice a week. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons so I could run errands, get groceries, maybe even get my hair cut. It was heaven. Sarah was perfect. She always arrived early. The house was cleaner when I got home than when I left. The kids were happy, fed, and the baby was always down for his nap right on schedule. But after about a month, I started noticing odd things. First, it was my daughter saying strange things. Sarah says you're not my real mommy. I laughed it off. Kids say weird things. Sarah explained my daughter had been asking about adoption, and she tried to explain how some kids have different mommies. Reasonable enough. Then I noticed things moved in my bedroom. Nothing major. My jewelry box shifted. Drawers not quite closed all the way. perfume bottles rearranged. I figured I was just tired and forgetful. One Thursday, I came home early. I'd forgotten my wallet and needed it for the grocery store. I walked in quietly, not wanting to wake the baby if he was napping. Sarah was in my bedroom. She had my wedding dress laid out on the bed and was holding it up against herself in front of the mirror. She jumped when she saw me. Her face went bright red. She stammered about how my daughter had asked to see it, how she was just looking, how sorry she was. I was uncomfortable, but I didn't want to make a big deal of it. I grabbed my wallet and left, but something felt really wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about finding her with my dress. On impulse, I checked our bedroom security camera. We'd installed it to watch the baby's crib when he was first born. What I saw made my skin crawl. Sarah going through every drawer, trying on my clothes, my shoes, my jewelry, lying on my side of the bed, smelling my pillow, taking pictures of herself and my things. But that wasn't the worst part. I checked other days. She did this every single time she babysat. But on the most recent video, she did something new. She took out a small bag and started collecting things. My hair from my brush, a tissue from the trash, a pair of my underwear from the laundry basket. I felt sick. I showed my husband. We called the police that night. The police took it seriously, especially when I showed them the videos. They went to talk to Sarah. What they found was worse than I imagined. Her apartment was full of pictures of me. Pictures I didn't know existed. Pictures taken through my windows. Pictures of me at the grocery store, at the park with my kids, in my yard. Hundreds of them. She had a journal. Pages and pages about how she was meant to be me. How she was going to replace me. How my husband would love her more. How the kids already liked her better. The police found something else. She'd been slowly poisoning me. I'd been feeling sick for weeks. Tired, nauseated, dizzy. I thought it was just stress and lack of sleep. But Sarah had been putting something in the food she left for me. "Dinner for you in the fridge," she'd say cheerfully. I've been so grateful. The detective said it wasn't enough to kill me. Just enough to make me weak. Make me need her more. Make me trust her with the kids for longer periods. She'd been planning to increase the dose. Sarah was arrested. She's in prison now. The detective told me I was lucky. These situations usually escalate. She was probably weeks away from trying something more drastic. I don't hire babysitters anymore. I found a licensed daycare with cameras I can check from my phone. Sometimes I still find myself checking the locks twice before bed. Checking the windows. Looking at every woman who smiles at my kids a little too long. My daughter still asks about Sarah sometimes. Where's the nice lady who said she was going to be my new mommy? I tell her Sarah had to go away. Far, far away. And I pray she stays there. Room 237 at the roadside motel. It was August of 2018. I was driving from Texas to Michigan for my sister's wedding. 26 hours straight if you drove without stopping, but I planned to do it in 2 days. The first day went fine. I made good time, stopped for gas and food when I needed to. By 11 p.m., I was exhausted and still had 10 hours to go. I needed to stop for the night. I took the next exit that had a lodging sign. There was only one place, the Starlight Motel. It looked exactly like you'd expect. Old, slightly run-down, flickering neon sign. But it was either that or sleep in my car. The office was dim. An old man sat behind the desk watching a tiny TV. He barely looked at me as I asked for a room. "Just you?" he asked. "Yes." He handed me a key. An actual metal key, not a key card. Room 237. End of the building. Checkouts at 11. The room was at the very end, just like he said. I had to walk past all the other rooms to get there. Only 2 other cars in the whole parking lot. Most of the rooms were dark. Room 237 was basic but clean enough. Old furniture, musty smell, ancient TV. But the bed looked okay and the door locked. That's all I needed. I took a shower and got into bed around midnight. I was so tired I fell asleep immediately. I woke up at 2:17 a.m. I remember the exact time because I looked at the clock. Something had woken me, but I didn't know what. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. But not from outside. From inside my room. I froze. Held my own breath and listened. There it was again. Coming from the corner by the bathroom. My eyes adjusted to the dark. And I saw him. A man. Standing perfectly still in the corner of my room. Just standing there. Watching me. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I couldn't move. He didn't move either. We just stayed like that, me in bed, him in the corner, for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Then he took a step toward the bed. That broke my paralysis. I rolled off the opposite side of the bed and ran for the door. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely work the lock. I could hear him moving behind me. I got the door open and ran. Barefoot in just my t-shirt and shorts, I ran to my car. Thank God I'd grabbed my keys from the nightstand out of habit. I jumped in my car and locked the doors. Started it and peeled out of there so fast I left tire marks. I drove for miles before I even thought about stopping. Finally pulled into a well-lit gas station and called 911. The police went to check it out. They called me back an hour later. There was no one in room 237, but they found something that made my blood run cold. There was a trapdoor in the floor of the closet. It led to a crawl space that connected to the room next door, room 236. In room 236 they found something horrible. Cameras, monitors, recording equipment. Hours and hours of footage of people in room 237. People sleeping, people showering, people doing private things thinking they were alone. The setup had been there for years. They arrested the motel owner, the old man who checked me in. He'd been recording guests for decades. But that wasn't all he did. Some of the guests who'd stayed in room 237 had gone missing. Their cars found abandoned down the road. The police think he'd watched them on the cameras, and if he liked what he saw, he'd visit them. Through the trapdoor. Most people never knew. They'd sleep through the night while he stood there, watching. Sometimes he'd take things. Underwear, personal items, trophies. But sometimes, if someone woke up, if someone saw him, those were the ones who went missing. I think about how close I came. If I hadn't woken up, if I hadn't run, if I'd frozen for just a few seconds longer. The police found remains buried behind the motel. They're still identifying them. I had to testify at the trial. Had to see him again. He smiled at me from the defendant's table. This small, knowing smile. Like we shared a secret. He's in prison now. Life without parole. But I still have nightmares about that night. About waking up and seeing him there. Just standing. Watching. Breathing. I don't stay in motels anymore. When I travel, I sleep in my car at rest stops or pay extra for big chain hotels. And I always check the closets. Check for trapdoors. Check for cameras. And I never, ever take room 237, the carpool mom. It was September of 2020. My son had just started kindergarten, and I joined a carpool group with 3 other moms from the neighborhood. We took turns driving the kids to and from school. Everything was normal for the first few weeks. The other moms were nice enough. Jennifer, Patricia, and Linda. Linda was a little odd but harmless. She was older than the rest of us, maybe early 50s, and this was her youngest child. She had teenagers too. Linda was always very interested in the other kids, always asking questions. What they liked to eat, what they were afraid of, their bedtime routines. I figured she was just trying to be helpful, maybe remembering when her older kids were small. But then the questions got more specific and more strange. Does Tommy sleep through the night? Does he ever sleepwalk? Do you lock his bedroom door? What about his window? Does it lock? I tried to laugh it off, made jokes about how all moms worry about safety, but something felt wrong. One day it was Linda's turn to pick up the kids, but she was late bringing them home. Really late, almost an hour. When she finally pulled up, she was full of apologies. Said there was traffic, then she got turned around, then the kids wanted ice cream. My son seemed fine but quiet, too quiet. That night at bedtime, Tommy said something that made my heart stop. The lady showed us her special room. What special room, honey? At her house. She said it was for special little boys. But we can't tell or we won't be special anymore. I tried to stay calm. Asked more questions. But Tommy got upset. Said he promised not to tell. Started crying. My husband wanted to call the police right then. But what would we say? That she showed the kids a room? That she was late bringing them home? It wasn't enough. So I did something else. The next time it was Linda's turn to drive, I followed her. She picked up the kids like normal. But instead of going to school, she went to her house. I parked down the street and watched. She took all 4 kids inside. They were in there for 20 minutes. Then she drove them to school. I was shaking. I called the other moms. Found out Linda had been doing this every time it was her turn. Telling them she needed to stop at home for something she forgot. The kids never mentioned it. We went to the police together. They took it seriously. Got a warrant to search Linda's house. What they found still haunts me. She had a room in her basement, painted like a kindergarten classroom. Tiny chairs, toys, books, but also cameras. Lots of cameras. And locks. Locks on the inside of the door. She'd been preparing, planning. The police said she was grooming the kids, getting them comfortable in her house, teaching them it was normal to go to her special room. teaching them to keep secrets. They found journals, detailed plans about each child, which one would be first, how she would do it. When she'd been planning to take Tommy, my Tommy, she'd written that he was perfect. They found other things too, things I can't even write about, things that showed this wasn't her first time planning something like this, maybe not even her first time doing it. Linda was arrested. The investigation is still ongoing. They're looking into children she's had contact with over the years, former students from when she was a teacher's aide, kids from other carpools. We had to move. I couldn't drive past her house every day, couldn't see that normal-looking home and know what was hidden inside. Tommy's in therapy now. He's doing better. Doesn't remember much, thank God. The therapist says we caught it early, before any real harm was done. But I can't stop thinking about what almost happened, how close we came, how she smiled at me every morning when I handed her my child, how normal she seemed. I drive Tommy to school myself now, every day. I know it's not practical. I know I can't protect him from everything, but I watch him walk into that building every morning, make sure he gets inside safe. And I wonder about all the other Lindas out there, smiling at school pickup, organizing carpools, planning their special rooms, waiting. The man who knew my routine. It was January of 2022. I was 28 and living alone for the first time. Small apartment, quiet neighborhood felt safe enough. I'm a creature of habit. Always have been. Same coffee shop every morning at 7:15. Same parking spot at work. Same gym every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Same grocery store every Sunday afternoon. I liked my routine. It was comfortable, predictable. I first noticed him at the coffee shop. Middle-aged guy, pleasant face, always reading a newspaper. He'd nod and smile when I came in. Friendly but not creepy. Just another regular. Then I started seeing him other places. The gym, the grocery store, the park where I jogged on weekends. Always a coincidence. Always a friendly wave or nod. Small world, he said once at the store. We keep running into each other. I laughed it off. It was a small town. Made sense we'd shop at the same places. But then I noticed something. He was always there before me. Already at the coffee shop when I arrived. Already halfway through his workout when I got to the gym. Already checking out when I got to the store. Like he knew exactly when I'd be there. One night, I got home late from a friend's house. As I pulled into my apartment complex, I saw him, sitting in his car in the visitor parking. When he saw me, he started his car and drove away. Now I was scared. I started changing my routine. Different coffee shop, different times at the gym. But within a week, he'd found a new pattern. There he was again. Always already there. Always watching. I told my friends. They said I was being paranoid. Suggested maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he was just friendly. Maybe I should be flattered. But I knew something was wrong. I went to the police. They took a report but said there wasn't much they could do. He hadn't threatened me. Hadn't approached me beyond friendly greetings. It wasn't illegal to shop at the same stores. So I bought security cameras. Put them up around my apartment. Got a doorbell camera too. If I couldn't stop him, at least I'd have evidence if something happened. For a few weeks, I didn't see him. Started to relax. Maybe he'd gotten bored. Maybe I really had been paranoid. Then I checked my camera footage. He was there. Every night. Between 2 and 3 a.m. Standing across the street from my apartment. Just standing there. Watching my windows. Sometimes for hours. The footage was terrifying. He'd move occasionally. Pace a little. But mostly just stand. Still as a statue. Watching. I took the footage to the police. This time they listened. Started surveillance on him. What they found was worse than I imagined. His apartment was a shrine to me. Photos covering every wall. Pictures of me at work, at the gym, at the store. Pictures through my apartment windows. Pictures of me sleeping. He had notebooks. Detailed logs of everywhere I went. Every person I talked to. What I wore. What I ate. What time I turned my lights off. Years of documentation. He'd been watching me since the week I moved in. But that wasn't the worst part. He had a plan. Written out in detail. He knew my schedule so well he'd found the perfect time. Thursday nights. I always got home late from the gym, always showered, always went to bed by 10:30. My neighbor worked night shifts Thursdays. He'd planned everything. How he'd get in. What he'd bring. What he'd do. How he'd leave. He was days away from executing it. The police arrested him. Found evidence linking him to 2 other women. Women who'd gone missing. Women whose routines he'd studied just like mine. He's in prison now. Will be for a long time. But I can't shake the feeling of being watched. Can't stick to routines anymore. I vary everything. Different routes to work, different stores, different times for everything. My friends say I'm letting him win, letting fear control my life. But they didn't see those notebooks, didn't see how much he knew. Every detail of my life mapped out like a blueprint. They didn't see the pages where he'd written what he was going to do to me, how he was going to make me disappear. Just like the others, I moved to a different city, changed jobs, changed my name. But sometimes I still feel it, that sensation of being watched, of someone learning my new patterns. Because here's what really keeps me up at night. He wasn't special, wasn't some criminal mastermind, just an ordinary guy who got obsessed, who watched, who waited. How many others are out there right now, sitting in coffee shops, shopping at grocery stores, taking notes, making plans, watching someone just like you, waiting for the perfect moment? The main vacation house. It was late June of 2003. My family had planned a trip to Bar Harbor, Maine for the 4th of July weekend. My mother was thrilled about the rental house she'd found online. Right on the water, she said. Perfect for watching fireworks. My dad got held up with a case at his law firm. He was supposed to fly up from Dallas 2 days after us. So it was just me, my mom, and my younger brother making the drive up from Connecticut. I was 15 and annoyed about everything, especially being stuck in a car for 8 hours. The drive took forever. Construction on I-95. Mom getting lost twice because she refused to use the GPS. My brother throwing up from car sickness. We didn't reach Bar Harbor until almost 11 p.m. The rental office was closed. Of course it was. Mom had missed the pickup window by 3 hours. She called the number on our reservation, but it went straight to voicemail. Well, she said, trying to sound cheerful. Let's get some dinner and figure this out. We found a seafood place still open near the harbor. Mom ordered lobster rolls for everyone. I picked at mine, still sulking about the trip. That's when he approached our table. Clean-cut guy, maybe 40, khakis and a polo shirt. Looked like every other tourist dad in Maine. He apologized for interrupting and said he couldn't help but overhear our situation. Happens all the time in summer, he said. These rental agencies close up tight at 8 p.m. No exceptions. Mom laughed, that nervous laugh she did when she was stressed. Started chatting with him about Dallas, about Maine, about vacation rental horror stories. His name was Paul. Said he worked in tech, had a place nearby. I watched him while they talked. Something felt off. Maybe it was how he kept glancing at me and my brother. Maybe it was how his smile never quite reached his eyes. Listen, Paul said. I've got a guest cottage on my property. Nobody's using it this week. You're welcome to stay there tonight. Get your rental sorted in the morning. My skin crawled. Mom was actually considering it. I kicked her under the table. That's so kind, Mom said. But we couldn't impose. It's no imposition. My wife would kill me if I let a family sleep in their car. The cottage is completely separate from the main house. Has its own entrance and everything. I texted Dad under the table. Mom wants to stay at some random guy's house. Please call her now. Dad called within seconds. Mom stepped away to talk. I could hear her explaining, defending, insisting the man seemed perfectly nice. When she came back, she was smiling. Your father thinks it's fine. Better than sleeping in the car. My stomach dropped. We followed Paul's white SUV through dark, winding roads. The trees pressed in on both sides. No street lights. No other houses that I could see. Just darkness and trees. His property was huge. The main house sat on a hill, all lit up. The guest cottage was down a slope, maybe 200 yards away. Couldn't even see the main house from there. The cottage was nice enough. 2 bedrooms, full kitchen, big windows overlooking the woods. But something was wrong with the layout. The beds were pushed up against the windows. Who puts beds right under windows? The decorator had some interesting ideas, Paul said, like he was reading my mind. My wife keeps meaning to rearrange things. He showed us where everything was. Towels, extra blankets, coffee maker. So helpful. So friendly. Too friendly. I'll check on you in the morning, he said. Sleep tight. After he left, I immediately tried to move my bed away from the window. It was bolted to the floor. So was the one in Mom's room. Stop being dramatic, Mom said. It's one night. But she double-checked the locks. I couldn't sleep. Just lay there staring at the dark window above my head. Around 1 a.m. I heard Mom get up. Heard her check the locks again. She was scared too, even if she wouldn't admit it. At 1:47 a.m. I heard something outside. Footsteps in the leaves. Slow. Deliberate. They stopped right outside my window. I held my breath, tried not to move. The footsteps started again, moving to the next window. Mom's room. I texted her, "Someone's outside." "I know," she texted back. "Don't move." The footsteps circled the cottage, stopped at each window, like someone was checking if we were asleep, or looking for the best way in. Then nothing. Silence for maybe 10 minutes. I started to relax. A face appeared in the window above me. Paul, standing on something to see in the high window, just staring down at me. I squeezed my eyes shut, tried to breathe normally, pretend I was asleep. He stayed there for so long. I could feel him watching. Finally, I heard him step down. Move away. Mom was in my room seconds later. "Get your brother," she whispered. "We're leaving. Now." We grabbed our stuff in the dark. Mom had her keys in one hand, her phone in the other, 911 already dialed but not sent. We crept to the door. The doorknob turned from the outside. Mom hit send on 911, started talking fast and loud. "We need help immediately. A man is trying to break into where we're staying." The doorknob stopped turning. Footsteps ran away from the door. "Go, go, go," Mom hissed. We ran to our car. Mom started it and threw it in reverse. That's when we saw that Paul's SUV was parked across the driveway, blocking us in. Mom didn't hesitate. Drove straight across the lawn, through some bushes, found the road. We could hear shouting behind us. At the end of the long driveway, there was a metal gate. Closed, padlocked. "Hold on," Mom said. She floored it. We smashed through that gate like it was paper. Kept driving. Didn't stop until we found a police station. The cops went back to check it out. Paul was gone. So was his SUV. The main house was dark and empty. Looked like nobody had lived there in months. They ran the property records. The owners were in Europe. Had been for 6 weeks. Paul, whoever he was, had been staying in their house, playing host, bringing families to the guest cottage. They found things in the cottage. Hidden cameras in the bedrooms. Recording equipment in the basement. Restraints bolted to the walls down there. Other things I don't want to describe. They never found Paul. But they found evidence of other families. Other people who'd accepted his hospitality. Some of their belongings were still in that basement. Not all of those families had been as lucky as us. We drove straight home that night. Never did see Bar Harbor. Never did get our rental house. Mom had to explain to the rental agency why we never showed up. They said we were the third family that week to miss our reservation. Made me wonder how many others had met Paul. How many had followed him to that cottage. How many had never left. We don't talk about that night much. But sometimes Mom will look at me and say, "Always trust your instincts." I do. Every time. Because I know what almost happened in that cottage. What was waiting for us in that basement. And I know that Paul, or whatever his real name was, is still out there. Maybe in another town now. Another rental property. Another helpful stranger offering shelter to tired families. Still watching through windows. Still waiting. The Midnight Driver. I was living in Raleigh at the time. This was 2007, and I'd just gotten out of a bad relationship. Started going to this little dive bar downtown to forget about things. Not to meet anyone, just to have a beer and read the news in peace. One Tuesday night, this guy sits down next to me at the bar. Older guy, maybe 45 or 50. Gray hair, thick mustache, wearing a Duke Energy work shirt. Looked like somebody's dad. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. "Everywhere else is taken." The bar was half empty, but whatever. I said sure. He ordered a beer and started talking. Casual stuff at first. The weather. The game on TV. Then he started asking questions. Where did I work? Where did I live? Did I come here often? I gave vague answers. Didn't want to be rude, but didn't want to encourage him either. Something about his eyes bothered me. They were too focused, too intense. "You look really young," he said. "How old are you?" 26, I lied. I was actually 31, but people always said I looked younger. His whole demeanor changed. Like I'd said the wrong answer. He finished his beer in one long pull and stood up. "Have a good night," he said, and left. Weird, but whatever. I'd had stranger bar encounters. 2 nights later, I was at a different bar with some coworkers. Birthday party for someone in accounting. The place was packed, loud, not really my scene. I stepped out for some air. He was there. Same guy from Tuesday. Standing by a black pickup truck in the parking lot. "Hey there," he called out. Small world. My skin prickled. Raleigh isn't that small. "Hi," I said, already backing toward the door. "Your friends in there?" "Yeah. They're waiting for me." "That's good. Pretty girl like you shouldn't be alone at night. Lot of weirdos out there." The way he said it made my stomach turn. I went back inside and stayed until the bar closed, made sure I left with a group. But I saw his truck again the next week, parked outside my gym, then at the grocery store, then across from my apartment complex, always just sitting there, him behind the wheel watching. I started changing my routine. Different gym, different stores, stayed with friends some nights, but that black truck kept appearing, like he knew where I'd be before I did. 3 weeks after that first night at the bar, I was doing laundry at my apartment complex. It was late, maybe 11 p.m. The laundry room was in the basement, usually empty that time of night. I was moving clothes from the washer to the dryer when I heard the door open behind me. Heavy footsteps, the smell of cigarettes and motor oil. I didn't turn around, just kept loading the dryer. Maybe if I ignored him, he'd leave. Working late tonight? His voice was different, slurred. He'd been drinking. Just finishing up, I said. My phone was in my back pocket. I slipped it out, tried to dial 911 by feel. You know, I've been watching you. He was closer now, right behind me. You're not 26. I looked you up. You're 31. Why'd you lie to me? I need to go. I tried to step around him. He blocked me. I don't like liars. But I really don't like women over 30. Used up. Worthless. But you still look young. That's interesting. I shoved past him and ran. Heard him laughing as I sprinted up the stairs. Made it to my apartment, locked the door, called 911. The cops came quick. Found him still in the laundry room. He was drunk, had a knife in his pocket and a roll of duct tape in his truck. When they arrested him, he said something that still haunts me. I only wanted the young ones. She tricked me. Made me waste my time. Turns out he had a record. Had been stalking women for years. Young women. College age. 3 of them had gone missing over the past 5 years. They found evidence in his house. Pictures. Belongings. Other things. He'd been hunting. Looking for women who looked young but were legal age. Some sick game he played. And he'd gotten away with it for years. At the trial, I found out how close I'd come. He'd planned to take me that night in the laundry room. Had a whole setup in his basement. The duct tape, the knife, those were just the beginning. The only thing that saved me was that I'd lied about my age that first night. It had confused him. Made him hesitate. Made him watch longer instead of acting right away. He's in prison now. Life without parole. But I still think about all the nights he was watching. All the times I felt safe when I wasn't. All the women who didn't get away. I moved after the trial. Different state, different life. But I still check parking lots for black pickup trucks. Still feel my heart race when older men try to talk to me in bars. And I never, ever do laundry late at night. Sometimes I dream about that laundry room. About what would have happened if I'd been just a little slower. If I hadn't lied about my age. If he hadn't been drunk enough to give me warning. In the dreams, I don't get away. In the dreams, I become one of the missing women whose pictures they found in his basement. Just another young face in his collection. The house on Cedar Street. My wife and I moved to Burlington in March of 2019. Fresh start after some legal troubles back in New York. I'd done 6 months for check fraud. Not proud of it, but I'd paid my debt and had a job waiting at a warehouse downtown. Money was tight. Really tight. We needed something cheap, somewhere that wouldn't run a credit check or ask too many questions. Found a room for rent on Cedar Street. Old Victorian converted to a boarding house. For rooms, shared everything else. $200 a week, cash only. The landlady, Mrs. Chin, lived on the first floor. Sweet old woman, must have been 70. Said she'd been renting rooms for 20 years. Our room was small but clean. We were just grateful to have somewhere to sleep. The other tenants seemed okay. There was Marcus, young guy who worked construction. Brenda, a nurse who worked nights. And a couple upstairs, Keith and Diana. They were friendly. Maybe too friendly, but we figured they were just being welcoming. Keith was probably 35, always wearing band t-shirts and ripped jeans. Diana was younger, maybe 25, pretty in a worn-out kind of way. They'd knock on our door all the time. Want to smoke weed? Want to grab a beer? Want to watch a movie? We hung out with them some. They were actually fun. Keith played guitar, told crazy stories about touring with his band years ago. Diana was sweet, always asking about our old life in New York. But after a few weeks, things got weird. First, they started asking for money. Just little amounts. 20 here, 40 there. They always paid us back, so we didn't think much of it. Then they started asking about our schedules. When did we work? When were we home? Seemed nosy, but not alarming. One night in April, I woke up around 3 a.m. Needed water. When I opened our door, Keith was in the hallway. Just standing there. In the dark. "Oh hey," he said like it was normal. "Couldn't sleep. Diana's snoring." But their room was upstairs. Why was he on our floor? The next week, my wife found Diana in our room. We'd forgotten to lock the door, and there was Diana looking through my wife's jewelry box. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Diana said. "Keith lost his ring and we thought maybe it rolled under your door or something. I should have asked." My wife wanted to move right then, but we couldn't afford anywhere else. I told her to just keep the door locked. We'd save up, find somewhere better soon. Then came the night that changed everything. May 15th, a Wednesday. We'd both worked late, came home exhausted around 10 p.m. As we walked up to the house, every light was off. Weird. Mrs. Chin always left the porch light on. Inside was dark too. Silent. We fumbled for the light switch. Nothing. Power must be out. We used our phones as flashlights, made it to our room, locked the door and collapsed into bed. I was out within minutes. My wife woke me at 2 a.m., shaking me hard. "Someone's in our room," she whispered. I shot up. There, in the corner by my dresser, was a shadow. A person. Going through our things. "Keith," I said. "What the hell, man?" The shadow turned. It was Keith, but he had something in his hand. Metal. A hammer. "Sorry about this," he said. His voice was different. "Cool. But Diana says we need to. You've seen too much." I kicked the covers off and jumped up, putting myself between him and my wife. "Seen what?" "What are you talking about?" "The basement. We know you know." I had no idea what he meant. We'd never been in the basement. Didn't even know there was one. Keith stepped closer. I could see his face now in the phone light. His pupils were huge. He was high on something. "Just put the hammer down," I said. "Let's talk about this." "Can't. She's already downstairs. It's happening tonight." "Downstairs? Mrs. Chen's apartment?" My wife had her phone out, trying to call 911. No signal. Keith must have seen our panic. "Cell jammer," he said. "Diana's idea. She's smart about tech stuff." He raised the hammer. I charged him. We crashed into the dresser, knocked over the lamp. The hammer hit the wall inches from my head. We were screaming, fighting, making so much noise. But no one came to help. My wife hit him with a chair. He dropped the hammer and stumbled back. We ran for the door. It was locked from the outside. "Window!" I yelled. We smashed through the window with the same chair. Second floor, but there was a roof below. We jumped, rolled, ran. Behind us, Keith was shouting. Made it to my car. Tires had been slashed. All four. So we ran. Barefoot in our pajamas, we ran down Cedar Street. Found an all-night diner 6 blocks away. The owner let us use his phone. The police found Mrs. Chin in the basement. She'd been there for days. Keith and Diana had killed her, been living in her apartment, pretending everything was normal. They'd killed her for her social security checks. For the rent money we all paid her every week. But that wasn't all. Marcus, the construction worker, he'd been in the basement too. And Brenda, the nurse. They'd been killing the tenants one by one, taking their rent money, their belongings, their IDs. Diana had been using Brenda's ID to work her shifts at the hospital. They'd been doing it for months, maybe longer. The police found evidence of at least 6 other tenants who'd moved out suddenly over the past year. We were supposed to be next. They'd been watching us, learning our patterns. The power outage was fake. The cell jammer was to keep us from calling for help. They'd planned to kill us that night, put our bodies in the basement with the others. If my wife hadn't woken up, if Keith hadn't been high and sloppy, if we'd frozen instead of fighting, Keith got life in prison. Diana got 40 years. During the trial, she smiled at us from the defendant's table. This sweet, innocent smile, like we were still friends, like she couldn't understand why we were upset. We left Burlington the day after the trial, moved south far as we could get. Found a tiny apartment where we know all our neighbors and the landlord lives on site and the basement is locked and sealed. But sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. and listen. Check the corners of our room. Make sure the door is locked. Make sure we're alone. Because I know now that the scariest monsters look just like everyone else. They smile and laugh and invite you to watch movies. They ask about your day and seem to care. And then one night they come for you with a hammer. One night you become just another body in the basement. Another tenant who moved out suddenly. Another ghost in the house on Cedar Street. The summer camp counselor. I'm 34 now, but I still can't drive past a summer camp without feeling sick to my stomach. This happened when I was 16, the summer of 2006, and I've never told anyone the whole story until now. My parents signed me up for Camp Watauga in North Carolina. 2 weeks of hiking, swimming, campfires, typical summer camp stuff. I didn't want to go. I was a moody teenager who just wanted to stay home and play video games. But they insisted it would be character building. The camp was deep in the mountains about an hour from Asheville. No cell service, no internet. Just woods and lakes and about 60 other kids aged 12 to 17. I was put in cabin 7 with 5 other guys my age. Our counselor was Jake. He was probably 22 or 23, fresh out of college. Tall, athletic, that all-American look that made all the younger kids worship him immediately. He seemed cool at first. Let us stay up late, didn't make us do all the activities if we didn't want to. He'd tell us stories about college parties and girls. The other guys thought he was the best. But something felt off about Jake from the beginning. He had this way of watching us. Not like a counselor keeping an eye on his campers. More like studying. He'd ask weird questions during lights out. Who had girlfriends? Who'd kissed a girl? Who was still a virgin? The other guys would laugh and answer, trying to sound experienced. I usually pretended to be asleep. About 4 days in, things started getting strange. Jake would leave the cabin in the middle of the night. He'd be gone for hours. When he came back, he'd smell like cigarettes and something else. Something chemical. One night, I followed him. I waited until he left, then slipped out about 30 seconds behind him. The moon was bright enough to see him heading down the trail toward the lake. But instead of going to the main beach, he turned off onto a smaller path I didn't even know existed. I stayed back, hiding behind trees. The path led to a small clearing with an old equipment shed. The kind they store canoes and life jackets in during the off-season. There was light coming from inside. Jake knocked on the door in a pattern. 3 fast, 2 slow. Someone let him in. I crept closer, found a window on the side. It was dirty, but I could see through a clean spot in the corner. What I saw made my blood run cold. There were 3 other counselors inside. 2 guys I recognized from the older boys' cabins, and a female counselor named Amy from the girls' side. They were sitting around a camp table covered in photos. Photos of campers. Sleeping campers. Jake added a stack to the table. Started pointing at different ones, saying things I couldn't quite hear. The others were nodding, passing photos around. Amy held one up and they all laughed. Then Jake pulled out something else. A small bag of what looked like pills. The other counselors each took some, counting them out carefully. I knew I needed to get out of there. Started backing away from the window. That's when I stepped on a branch. It snapped loud in the quiet night. Everyone inside froze. Jake's head whipped toward the window. I ran. Sprinted back through the woods, branches tearing at my clothes. Could hear the shed door slam open behind me. Footsteps crashing through the underbrush. Made it back to the cabin and dove into my bunk just as Jake burst through the door. I pulled my sleeping bag up to my chin, forced my breathing to be slow and even. He stood in the doorway for a long time. I could feel him staring at each bunk. Finally, he walked over to mine. Leaned down close. I could smell the cigarettes on his breath. "I know you're awake," he whispered. I didn't move, didn't breathe. He stayed there for what felt like hours but was probably only a minute. Then he went to his own bunk. But I knew he didn't sleep. I could hear him shifting, watching. The next morning at breakfast, Jake was acting normal, joking with the other campers, leading songs. But he kept looking at me. And I noticed the other counselors from the shed doing the same. They knew. They all knew. I needed to tell someone. But who? The camp director? What if he was involved too? What if no one believed me? I was just a kid with no proof. That night, Jake made an announcement in our cabin. "Special treat tonight, guys. Night hike to see the meteor shower. But it's just for the older campers. You guys up for it?" Everyone cheered. I felt sick. There was no meteor shower scheduled. I'd been into astronomy since I was 12. I knew. "Actually," I said, "I'm not feeling great. Think I'll skip it." Jake's smile didn't change, but his eyes went hard. "Come on, don't be a baby. It'll be fun. Besides, participation is mandatory for this one." The other guys started teasing me, calling me scared weak. Jake just watched with that same cold smile. We left at 11 p.m. Jake led us deep into the woods, deeper than we'd ever gone during regular hikes. The other guys were excited at first, but after an hour of walking, they started complaining. Where were we going? When would we see the meteors? "Just a little farther," Jake kept saying. We finally stopped at another clearing. This one had a bunch of logs arranged in a circle, like someone had prepared it. Jake told us to sit. "Okay guys, time for some real camp fun. Who wants to try something that'll make you feel amazing?" He pulled out the bag of pills. The other guys looked uncertain. One asked what they were. Just something to make the meteor shower even cooler, Jake said. Like 3D glasses for your brain. Totally safe. All the counselors do it. I stood up. I need to pee. Jake grabbed my arm. Art, hold it. I can't. I'll just go right over there. I pointed to some nearby trees. He squeezed tighter. I said hold it. That's when we heard the whistle. Sharp and loud through the trees. Jake's face went white. More whistles from different directions. Flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. Camp security, a voice boomed. Everyone stay where you are. Jake dropped my arm and bolted. Just took off running into the woods. The pills scattered everywhere as the bag hit the ground. Within seconds, the clearing was full of people. Not camp security, real police. State troopers. They'd been watching the camp for weeks, they told us later. Parents had been complaining about their kids coming home different from previous years. Acting strange. Having nightmares. Missing memories about certain nights. They rounded up Jake and the other counselors within hours. Found a whole operation they'd been running. Drugging campers, taking pictures, selling them online. Some of the kids had been assaulted after being drugged. They just didn't remember. The camp shut down immediately. Parents came from all over to pick up their kids. The story made national news for about a week before getting buried by some celebrity scandal. I had to testify at the trial. Had to sit in a courtroom and look at Jake while I told them what I saw. He stared at me the whole time. No expression. Just those cold eyes. He got 15 years. The others got similar sentences. The camp director claimed he knew nothing about it, and they could never prove otherwise. But Camp Watauga never reopened. I still have nightmares about that night hike. About what would have happened if the police hadn't been watching. If I'd taken those pills like Jake wanted. If I'd become another kid with missing memories and unexplained trauma. My parents felt horrible. Kept apologizing for sending me there. Paid for therapy for years. To help, I guess. But some things you never really get over. I'm married now. Have a daughter of my own. She's 10, already asking about summer camp. Her friends all go. She feels left out. But I can't do it. Can't send her off to strangers in the woods. My wife says I'm being overprotective. That I can't let one bad experience control our decisions. Maybe she's right. Maybe camps are safer now. More oversight. Better screening. Background checks. But I remember Jake's smile. His all-American counselor act. How everyone trusted him immediately. How he fooled parents and administrators for who knows how long. I remember those photos spread out on that table. Kids who thought they were safe. Kids whose parents thought they were building character. So no, my daughter won't be going to summer camp. She can hate me for it if she wants. Call me overprotective. Say I'm ruining her childhood. But she'll be safe. She'll come home every night. And she'll never have to sit in a courtroom at 16, looking into the eyes of someone who was supposed to protect her. She'll never have to learn that monsters don't look like monsters. They look like camp counselors with perfect smiles and fun stories. They look like people you trust. Until they don't. The neighbor's basement. I'm 29 now, living in Seattle, about as far from suburban Ohio as I could get. But sometimes I still dream about that house. About what I saw in the basement. About how close I came to never leaving it. It was 2008. I was 14, awkward, obsessed with video games and not much else. We lived in one of those cookie-cutter subdivisions outside Columbus. Every house looked the same. Everyone had the same lawn. The same cars. The same life. The Pattersons lived next door. Mr. Patterson was an accountant. Mrs. Patterson sold real estate. They had a son, Ethan, who was a year older than me. We weren't really friends, but we were friendly. Waited at the bus stop together. Sometimes played basketball in his driveway. That summer, Ethan got really into photography. His dad bought him an expensive camera for his birthday, and suddenly he was taking pictures of everything. Birds, cars, clouds. He'd show me sometimes. He was actually pretty good. One day in July, Ethan asked if I wanted to see his darkroom. My dad set it up in the basement, he said. It's really cool. You can watch the photos develop right in front of you. I wasn't that interested, but I was bored and it was too hot to do anything outside. So I said sure. The Pattersons' basement was finished, not like ours. Carpet, painted walls, even a bathroom. Mr. Patterson's office was down there, along with a TV area. The darkroom was in a storage room at the back. Ethan showed me how it all worked. The chemicals, the special light, the trays where the images appeared like magic on the paper. It was actually pretty cool. He developed a few photos he'd taken of the neighborhood. Regular stuff. Then he grinned. Want to see something crazy? He pulled out a different envelope. These photos were different. They were of people but taken from far away. Through windows. A woman changing clothes. A couple arguing in their kitchen. Our neighbor Mrs. Chin sunbathing in her backyard. Dude, I said. This is messed up. It's art, Ethan said. Capturing real life. Real moments. Not fake poses. I felt sick looking at them. These were our neighbors. People we knew. You can't take pictures of people without them knowing. It's illegal. Only if you get caught, he laughed. Besides, my dad thinks they're brilliant. Your dad knows? Who do you think taught me? Come on, I'll show you his collection. I didn't want to see. But Ethan was already leading me out of the darkroom toward his dad's office. He pulled out a key from under a fake plant. He doesn't know I know where he keeps this, Ethan whispered. The office looked normal. Desk, computer, filing cabinets. Ethan went to one of the cabinets, used another hidden key to open it. Inside were dozens of photo albums. Check this out, he said, pulling one out. The photos were like Ethan's but worse. Much worse. Women and girls from the neighborhood. At pools. In their yards. Through bathroom windows. Some looked like they were taken from inside houses. Pages and pages of them. All labeled with names and addresses. I wanted to throw up. We need to leave. Now. Wait, there's more. No. I'm leaving. I headed for the stairs. That's when Mr. Patterson came home. We heard the garage door open. Ethan's face went white. He shoved the album back, slammed the cabinet shut. But there wasn't time to get out of the office. Mr. Patterson's footsteps on the stairs. Slow, steady, like he had all the time in the world. Hide, Ethan whispered, shoving me toward a closet. I crammed myself in between winter coats and boxes just as Mr. Patterson appeared in the doorway. Ethan, he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Why are you in my office? I was just showing my friend the darkroom. What friend? David from next door. He left already. Did he now? Mr. Patterson walked into the room. Through the crack in the closet door, I could see him checking things. The cabinet, the desk, looking for anything out of place. You know you're not allowed in here, he said. I'm sorry. I just wanted to show off the darkroom setup. Mr. Patterson stared at his son for a long moment. Then he smiled. But it wasn't a nice smile. Where's the cabinet key? What key? Don't lie to me, son. Ethan pulled out the key with shaking hands. Mr. Patterson took it, then walked to the closet. I pressed myself back as far as I could go. He opened the door. Hello, David, he said. Why don't you come out of there? I squeezed out, my legs shaking. Mr. Patterson was blocking the only exit. He was bigger than I remembered. Taller. Broader. Sit, he said, pointing to a chair. Both of you. We sat. Mr. Patterson leaned against his desk, still smiling that terrible smile. So, David, what did you see? Nothing, I said quickly. We were just in the darkroom. Ethan, did you show him the albums? Ethan looked at the floor. Just one. Which one? 2007. Mr. Patterson nodded slowly. That's unfortunate. You see, David, those photos are part of a very special project. An artistic study. But people might not understand. They might get the wrong idea. I won't tell anyone, I said. My voice came out as a whisper. No, he agreed. You won't. He stood up, walked to the door. For a second, I thought he was letting us go. Then I heard the lock click. Dad. Ethan's voice cracked. You broke the rules, son. Both of you. Now we need to figure out what to do about it. He went to his desk, opened a drawer, pulled out a camera. Stand up, David. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I said stand up. I stood on shaky legs. Take off your shirt. What? No. You looked at my photos without permission. Now I'm going to take some of you. Fair is fair. Dad, come on, Ethan said. He's my friend. He won't tell. Mr. Patterson backhanded Ethan so fast I barely saw it. Ethan flew out of his chair, blood streaming from his nose. You brought him here, Mr. Patterson said. This is your fault. He turned back to me. Shirt. Now. I pulled off my shirt with numb fingers. He started taking pictures. The flash blinded me over and over. Turn around. Good. Now face the wall. I did everything he said. Ethan was crying in the corner, blood all over his face. Mr. Patterson just kept taking pictures. Click, flash, click, flash. These will be insurance, he said finally. You tell anyone about my collection and these photos go everywhere. Your school, your parents, the internet, everywhere. Understand? I nodded. Say it. I understand. Good boy. He unlocked the door. "Go home, David. Forget this happened. And if I see you near my house again, if you even look at Ethan at school, we'll have a very different conversation. One that won't end with you walking out. Clear?" I ran, burst out of their house and ran home. My mom asked what was wrong. I said I felt sick. Spent the rest of the day in my room shaking. I avoided Ethan after that. Changed my route to school so I didn't have to wait at the bus stop with him. He tried to talk to me once, but I walked away. I could see Mr. Patterson's car in my peripheral vision, watching. We moved 6 months later. Dad got a job transfer to Seattle. I was so relieved I cried. But I never told anyone what happened. Too scared of those photos. Too scared of what Mr. Patterson might do. Years later, I looked up the Pattersons online. Needed to know what happened to them. Found out Mr. Patterson was in prison. He'd been caught with thousands of photos. Hidden cameras in dozens of homes. He'd been doing it for over a decade. Ethan was arrested too, following in Dad's footsteps. They found his own collection when they searched the house. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. I think about the women in those photos sometimes. Our neighbors, friends' moms, kids from school. None of them knew. None of them had any idea that Mr. Patterson, boring accountant, helpful neighbor, was watching them, documenting them, violating them over and over through his lens. I think about what would have happened if I hadn't hidden in that closet. If I'd gotten out in time, would I have kept quiet anyway? Let it continue? Or what if Ethan hadn't known about the key? If we'd never seen those albums? How many more years would it have gone on? But mostly I think about that basement, that locked door. The way Mr. Patterson said we'd have a different conversation next time. The way he smiled when he said it. I know what was going to happen. I know what that different conversation would have been. And I know I wouldn't have walked out of that basement. Sometimes being a coward saves your life. Sometimes running away is the smartest thing you can do. I'm not proud of keeping quiet, but I was 14 and terrified and alone in a locked room with a predator. I did what I had to do to survive. And I did survive. That's more than some people can say about their encounters with the monsters next door. The youth group leader. I'm 31 now, married, working as a therapist. Ironic, I know. Spending my days helping other people process trauma when I've never fully dealt with my own. But maybe that's why I'm good at it. I know what it's like to carry something dark. To smile and function while part of you is still trapped in the worst moment of your life. This happened in 2009. I was 16, living in a small town in Georgia. The kind of place where everyone goes to church and everyone knows everyone's business. My family went to First Baptist, the big church on Main Street. I'd been going since I was born. Baptized at 8, sang in the choir, never missed a Sunday. The youth group was my whole social life. Wednesday night Bible study, Friday night fellowship, Sunday school, summer mission trips. My parents loved it. Kept me out of trouble, they said. Kept me on the right path. Brother Marcus ran the youth group. He wasn't actually a pastor, just a volunteer, but everyone called him brother. He was in his early 30s, had a pretty wife and 2 little kids. Worked at the bank during the week. Everyone loved him. He made Bible study fun, organized lock-ins and trips to Six Flags. He could relate to teenagers, spoke our language. I trusted him completely. We all did. That trust is what made everything so much worse. It started small. Brother Marcus began texting me. Just checking in, he said. Making sure I was keeping up with my devotions. The text came at weird hours. Late at night. Early morning. Always asking how I was feeling. If I needed to talk. If I was struggling with anything. I was struggling, actually. My parents were fighting a lot. Dad was drinking more. Mom was always crying. But I couldn't talk to them about it. So I talked to Brother Marcus. He was so understanding. So caring. Said I could tell him anything. Said God had put him in my life to help me through hard times. Started offering to meet with me one-on-one for extra counseling. Don't mention it to the other kids, he said. They might get jealous. Think I'm playing favorites. So we'd meet at the church when no one else was around. His office was in the youth building, separate from the main church. He'd lock the door so we wouldn't be disturbed. Said it was important to have privacy when discussing personal things. The conversations got more personal each time. He wanted to know everything. Did I have a boyfriend? Had I kissed anyone? Had I done more than kiss? He said he needed to know so he could give me proper spiritual guidance. Help me stay pure. Then he started sharing his own struggles. How his marriage was difficult. How his wife didn't understand him. How lonely he felt. How he felt like I was the only one who really listened to him. You're so mature for your age, he'd say. Sometimes I forget you're only 16. One Wednesday in October, things changed. I'd gone to his office after youth group. Everyone else had left. My mom was supposed to pick me up in an hour after her church committee meeting. Brother Marcus seemed different that night. Agitated. He locked the door like always, but this time he pulled the blinds closed too. "I've been praying about us," he said. "About our connection. And I think God is telling me something." He sat next to me on the couch instead of in his chair across the room. Put his hand on my knee. "What is God telling you?" I asked. My voice sounded small. "That you're special. That our relationship is special. That maybe it's meant to be more than just counselor and student." His hand moved up my leg. I froze. This was Brother Marcus. This was wrong. But he was a man of God. He wouldn't do anything bad, would he? "I don't understand," I said. "Let me show you." He kissed me. Not like a kid kiss. Like an adult kiss. His hands were everywhere. I couldn't move, couldn't think. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. When he finally stopped, I was crying. He held me, stroked my hair, told me it was okay. That this was God's plan. That I was scared because it was new, but it was beautiful. Sacred even. "But you can't tell anyone," he said. "They wouldn't understand. They'd try to keep us apart. You don't want that, do you?" I shook my head. I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted to go home. "Good girl. This is our secret. Our special relationship. God brought us together for a reason." My mom picked me up right on time. Asked how youth group was. I said fine. Normal. Same as always. But nothing was the same. Brother Marcus texted constantly now. Said he loved me. Said I was all he thought about. Said God had revealed to him that we were meant to be together. That when I turned 18, he'd leave his wife and we'd start a new life together. The meetings continued. Each one went a little further. He said it was okay because we loved each other. Because God had ordained it. He quoted Bible verses about love and commitment. Made it sound holy instead of horrible. I was so confused. Was this love? It didn't feel like what I'd imagined. Felt scary and wrong. But Brother Marcus said those feelings were Satan trying to destroy something beautiful. Said I needed to have faith. I started falling apart. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. My grades dropped. My parents noticed but thought it was just teenage stuff. Hormones. Stress about college applications. The breaking point came in December. Wednesday night, 2 weeks before Christmas. I decided to tell him I couldn't do this anymore. That it had to stop. But when I got to his office, he wasn't alone. There was another girl there. Stephanie from the youth group. She was 15, a year younger than me. Sitting on the same couch. Brother Marcus in his chair, leaning forward, intense. "Oh, Sarah's here," he said, not missing a beat. "We were just finishing up. Stephanie's been having some family troubles. Needs some extra guidance." Stephanie looked at me and I saw it in her eyes. The confusion. The fear. The same look I'd had 2 months ago. She left quickly, practically running out. Brother Marcus locked the door behind her. "That was awkward," he laughed. "But don't worry. She's nothing compared to you. You're special." But I wasn't special. I was just the first. Or maybe I wasn't even the first. How many girls had sat on that couch? How many had he counseled before me? "I feel sick," I said. "I need to go home." "Don't be jealous. You know you're the only one I love." "I need to go home." He got angry then. Grabbed my arm. "You can't just leave. We have plans. God's plan." I pulled away. Ran for the door. He blocked me. "You're being ridiculous. Sit down. Move. Sarah, don't make this difficult." I shoved past him, fumbled with the lock. He grabbed me again, harder this time. We struggled. I screamed. Someone knocked on the door. "Everything okay in there?" It was Pastor Williams, the senior pastor. Brother Marcus let go of me immediately. Smoothed his shirt. Unlocked the door. "Everything's fine, Pastor. Sarah just got some upsetting news from home. We were praying about it." Pastor Williams looked at me. At my tears. At the way I was shaking. "Sarah, are you all right?" I had a choice. Stay quiet and keep the secret. Or blow up my entire world. "No," I said. "I'm not all right." I told him everything. Right there in the doorway. Brother Marcus kept trying to interrupt, to explain, to twist the story. But I just kept talking. Let it all pour out. Pastor Williams' face went from confused to horrified to furious. He told Brother Marcus to stay put. Took me to his office. Called my parents. Called the police. The rest happened fast. Brother Marcus was arrested that night. They found messages and photos on his phone. Not just of me. Of other girls too. Going back years. The church exploded. Families taking sides. Some believed us. Some said we were lying, trying to destroy a good man. My family got death threats. Someone spray-painted liar on our garage. We had to leave. Moved to Atlanta where no one knew us. I finished high school there. Got therapy. Tried to piece myself back together. Brother Marcus pleaded guilty. Got 10 years. He's out now. Has to register as a sex offender. Last I heard he was living in Florida. Still married somehow. Still has people who believe he was falsely accused. Stephanie and I stayed in touch for a while. She was stronger than me. Angrier. She testified at the sentencing, looked him right in the eye and called him a monster. I couldn't even go into the courtroom. 3 other girls came forward during the investigation. One had been 14 when it started. Another said it had gone on for 2 years before she aged out and he moved on to someone younger. I think about those girls a lot. About how we all thought we were special. How we all thought it was love or God's plan or something other than what it really was. A predator using faith as a weapon. I still believe in God. But I don't go to church. Can't stand the smell of those old hymn books. Can't hear youth group without feeling sick. Can't trust anyone who claims to speak for God. My husband knows the basics. That something bad happened when I was a teenager. That it involved someone from church. But he doesn't know the details. Doesn't know how far it went. Doesn't know that sometimes when he touches me, I'm 16 again, frozen on that couch, wondering if this is what love is supposed to feel like. I became a therapist because I needed to make sense of it. Needed to understand how someone could use God and faith and trust as tools for abuse. How someone could look at a hurting kid and see an opportunity. I work with teenagers now. Kids who've been through their own traumas. And I see it in their eyes sometimes, that confusion I had. That question of whether what happened to them was really abuse or if they're overreacting. If they're being dramatic. I tell them what I wish someone had told me. It's not your fault. It's never your fault. And anyone who uses God or love or trust to hurt you is a liar and a predator, no matter how many Bible verses they quote. Sometimes they believe me. Sometimes they're not ready. Recovery isn't linear. Healing takes time. But at least they have someone who understands. Someone who's been in that locked office, on that couch, hearing that this is all part of God's plan. Someone who knows that real love doesn't happen behind locked doors. Real faith doesn't require secrets. And real mentors don't make you feel like you're drowning. They help you float. The exchange student. I'm 32 now, living in Denver, married to a wonderful woman who knows every detail of this story. She's the only person I've ever told everything to. Even my parents don't know the whole truth about what happened that year. Sometimes I think it's better that way. It was 2008, my senior year of high school in suburban Minnesota. My parents had always talked about hosting an exchange student. They thought it would be educational, cultural, broaden our horizons. When they finally decided to do it, I was actually excited. I pictured someone cool from France or Japan, someone who'd make me seem more interesting at school. We got Dmitry from Ukraine. He was 18, just a few months older than me. Tall, thin, with this white blonde hair and pale blue eyes. His English was perfect, just a slight accent. He seemed shy at first, really polite. My mom loved him immediately. They gave him the spare bedroom down the hall from mine. We were supposed to be like brothers, my dad said. Show him American high school life. Include him in everything. The first few weeks were fine. Normal, even. Dmitry was quiet but friendly. He came to school with me, sat with my friends at lunch, joined the soccer team. Girls thought his accent was cute. Guys thought he was cool because he'd lived through real stuff in Eastern Europe. But at home, things were different. It started with small things. I'd find him in my room when I got home from practice. Just sitting on my bed looking at my stuff. Sorry, he'd say. I was lonely. Your room feels friendly. My mom thought it was sweet. Said he was homesick, needed a brother figure. Told me to be more welcoming. Then I started waking up at night feeling like someone was watching me. I'd look around but see nothing. Told myself I was being paranoid. But it kept happening. That feeling of eyes on me in the dark. One night in October, I woke up around 3 a.m. Something felt wrong. I lay still listening. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, steady breathing that wasn't mine. I turned my head slightly. There was a shape by my closet. Standing completely still. Just standing there in the dark, watching me sleep. I almost screamed. Then the shape moved slightly and I caught a glimpse of white blonde hair in the moonlight. Dmitry. I squeezed my eyes shut, pretended to still be asleep. Eventually, I heard my door open and close. Soft footsteps down the hall. The next morning, I tried to tell my parents. But how do you explain that? Mom, Dmitry stands in my room at night and watches me sleep. Sounded crazy. They said I must have been dreaming. Said I was probably stressed about college applications. So I started locking my door at night. The first night I did it, I heard the doorknob turn around 2 a.m. Just turn and stop. Then again. Harder. Then nothing. In the morning, Dimitri didn't say anything. But he looked at me differently at breakfast. Like he knew that I knew. I put a chair under the doorknob after that. But I still couldn't sleep. Just lay there waiting for the doorknob to turn. And it did. Every single night. Sometimes he'd stand out there for an hour, just occasionally trying the handle. Sometimes there'd be scratching sounds like he was picking at the lock. During the day, he acted completely normal. Helped my mom with dinner. Watched TV with my dad. Laughed with my friends at school. Nobody else saw what I saw. The way he'd stare at me when no one was looking. The little smile when our eyes met like we shared a secret. I started sleeping at friends' houses when I could. Told my parents I was stressed about senior year. But I couldn't stay away every night. And when I was home, Dimitri was always there. Always watching. Always waiting. November brought the worst night of my life. There was a school dance. I went with my girlfriend Katie. Dimitri went too with some sophomore who had a thing for foreign guys. Everything seemed normal. We danced, hung out with friends, acted like regular teenagers. I got home around midnight. My parents were already asleep. I could hear Dimitri in his room, music playing softly. I locked my door, put the chair under the handle, and crashed into bed. I was exhausted from weeks of barely sleeping. I woke up to the feeling of something wet on my face. My eyes shot open. Dimitri was kneeling beside my bed, inches from my face. He had a cup in his hand. He'd been dripping water on me to wake me up. I tried to scream, but he put his hand over my mouth. His other hand held something sharp against my throat. A knife from the kitchen. "Shoo," he whispered. "We need to talk." I nodded, terrified. He slowly removed his hand from my mouth but kept the knife at my throat. "You've been avoiding me," he said. "That's rude. We're brothers, remember? How did you get in?" My voice was barely a whisper. He smiled. "Your father showed me where the spare key is. For emergencies. This is emergency. You won't be my friend. We are friends." "No. You lock door. You leave house. You don't like me." His English got worse when he was emotional. "In Ukraine I had brother. Real brother. He died. You were supposed to be new brother. But you reject me." The knife pressed harder. I felt something warm trickle down my neck. "What?" "I'm sorry," I said. "I'll be better. We can be brothers." "Too late. You made me angry. When I'm angry I do bad things. Like in Ukraine. Like to my real brother." My blood went cold. "What happened to your brother?" "He tried to leave too. Tried to go to university in Kiev. Leave me alone. So I made sure he stayed. Forever." His pale eyes were completely empty. No emotion at all. Like looking into a frozen lake. "But you're different," he continued. "You're not blood. So maybe I let you choose. Be my brother, real brother, or..." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. "I'll be your brother," I said quickly. "Whatever you want." "Good. We start now. Brothers share everything. Rooms. Beds. Everything." I wanted to throw up. But I nodded. "Get up," he said. "Come to my room. Brothers don't sleep apart." He kept the knife on me as I stood up. My legs were shaking so bad I could barely walk. We moved toward the door. That's when we heard it. A door opening downstairs. Footsteps. "Mom?" I called out, desperate. "Everything okay up there?" It was my dad's voice. Heard voices. Dimitri's face changed. The mask slipped back on. He slid the knife into his pocket and stepped away from me. "Yes, Mr. Johnson," he called out cheerfully. "I had nightmare. Sorry to wake you." My dad's footsteps on the stairs. I ran out into the hall, Dimitri right behind me. "Dad," I said. My voice was shaking. "Dad, I need to talk to you." He appeared at the top of the stairs in his bathrobe, looking confused and annoyed. Then he saw my face. Saw the blood on my neck. "What the hell happened?" "I slip in bathroom," Dimitri said quickly. "Hit corner of sink. So much blood. Your son is helping me." But the blood was on my neck, not his. My dad wasn't stupid. He looked between us, understanding dawning on his face. "Both of you. Downstairs. Now." We sat in the living room. I told him everything. The watching. The door. The knife. Dimitri sat there smiling sadly, shaking his head like I was telling a tragic story about someone else. "He's confused," Dimitri said when I finished. "Stress from school. I try to be good brother, but he doesn't like me. Makes up stories." My dad looked at my neck. The cut was small but real. Then he looked at Dmitri. Really looked at him. And for the first time, I think he saw what I'd been seeing. Something wrong behind those pale eyes. "Dmitri," he said calmly, "I'm going to call the exchange program. You'll stay in a hotel tonight. We'll sort this out in the morning." But I did nothing wrong. Now, my dad's voice was steel. Dimitri's mask finally fell completely. His face twisted into something ugly. He stood up fast and I saw his hand go to his pocket, to the knife. My dad saw it too. He grabbed the lamp from the side table, held it like a weapon. "Don't even think about it, son." They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Dmitri laughed. This high, strange laugh that made my skin crawl. "Americans," he said. "So dramatic. I get my things." My dad didn't let him go alone. Called 911 first, then followed Dmitri upstairs. I heard them moving around, packing. My mom came down, confused and frightened. I showed her my neck. She started crying. The police arrived just as Dmitri was coming downstairs with his suitcase. He went with them calmly, politely. Told them it was all misunderstanding, cultural differences, but they'd seen the cut on my neck. They took him for questioning. At the station they found more than anyone expected. The knife, yes, but also journals in Ukrainian, photos of me sleeping, detailed plans written in broken English, things he wanted to do, had been planning to do, and information about his brother in Ukraine, his real brother, who had died in a farming accident 3 years earlier. The Ukrainian police had suspected Dmitri but couldn't prove anything. The exchange program was his parents' way of getting him away from the scandal. They sent him back to Ukraine immediately. The exchange program apologized, said there'd been a failure in their screening process. My parents felt horrible, kept apologizing for not believing me sooner. I couldn't sleep in my room for months, kept seeing him standing by the closet, kept hearing the doorknob turn. Even after we moved my senior year of college, I still triple-checked my locks. Still wake up sometimes sure someone's watching me. I found out years later that Dmitri had been arrested in Ukraine. Another incident with another brother. This time they had proof. He's in prison there now, or he was last I checked. I try not to check often, but sometimes on really bad nights I dream about those pale eyes in the dark, about water dripping on my face, about the knife at my throat and his whisper, "Brothers share everything." I wake up from those dreams checking my locks, checking my closet, making sure I'm alone, because I know there are others like him out there, wearing masks, playing normal, looking for brothers to share everything with, looking for someone to watch in the dark. The drama teacher. I'm 35 now, a middle school teacher myself, which feels like some kind of cosmic joke. Every day I work with kids the age I was when it happened. Every day I watch for the signs I missed, the red flags everyone missed, because if I can spot another predator, maybe I can save someone else from what happened to me. It was 2004, freshman year of high school in a wealthy suburb of Chicago. I was 14, theater kid, desperate to be noticed, desperate to be special. North Shore High had an amazing drama program, won state competitions, sent kids to Broadway. And Mr. Brennan was the reason why. He was youngish for a teacher, maybe 32. Wore cool clothes, not teacher clothes. Quoted Shakespeare and Sondheim like they were his personal friends. He had this energy that made you want to impress him, made you feel like you were part of something important when he paid attention to you. Everyone loved Mr. Brennan. Parents thanked him for building their kids' confidence. Administration loved the trophies and acclaim he brought the school. Other teachers deferred to him like he was some kind of celebrity. I auditioned for the fall play, Our Town, hoping for any small part. When the cast list went up, I couldn't believe it. Emily, the female lead. A freshman beating out seniors. People said Mr. Brennan must have seen something special in me. He had. Just not what everyone thought. Rehearsals were magical at first. Mr. Brennan pushed us hard but made it feel like we were creating art, not just putting on a high school play. He'd keep me after sometimes working on scenes. Said I had natural talent but needed refinement. "You're going places, Melissa," he'd say. "I see a young Meryl Streep in you." I lived for those moments. Wrote them in my diary. Told my parents, who were thrilled their shy daughter was finally coming out of her shell. The individual coaching sessions increased. During lunch, after school, weekends. Always in the theater office, but always with the door open. Everything seems so proper, so professional. "Method acting requires trust," he said one day. "Complete trust between actor and director. Do you trust me, Melissa?" Of course I did. He was Mr. Brennan. He was going to make me a star. The touching started so gradually I couldn't point to when it began. A hand on my shoulder during notes. adjusting my posture by putting his hands on my waist, moving my face to find the light, fingers lingering on my jaw. "The audience needs to see your beautiful face," he'd say. Then came the emotional exercises. He said I needed to access deeper feelings for Emily's death scene. Had me lie on the stage in the dark, eyes closed, while he talked me through memories. "Think of something that makes you feel vulnerable," he'd whisper, sitting close. "Something private, secret. Tell me." I told him about my parents' divorce talks, about my eating issues, about feeling invisible. He absorbed it all, praised me for my bravery, said this vulnerability would make me a better actor. During one of these exercises, I felt his hand on my stomach. "Breathe from here," he said. Deep breaths. His hand stayed there, moving slightly with each breath. It felt wrong, but I didn't know how to say so. This was Mr. Brennan. This was acting. By November, the play was in full rehearsal mode. Long days, late nights. My parents were so proud, came to watch sometimes. Mr. Brennan was charming with them, praising their support, thanking them for raising such a talented daughter. The first time he kissed me was during a scene rehearsal. We were working on Emily's goodbye to the world. Very emotional. I was crying, really feeling it. When we finished, he hugged me. Normal director stuff. Then he pulled back, looked at me, and kissed me. Not a stage kiss. A real kiss. I froze. He pulled away, looking shocked. "I'm so sorry," he said. You were just so powerful in that moment. So adult. I forgot you were. I'm sorry." He seemed so genuinely upset that I found myself comforting him, telling him it was okay, that I understood, that I wouldn't tell anyone. "You're very mature," he said. "An old soul. That's what makes you such a good actor." The kisses happened more after that, always followed by apologies, always with reminders that I was special, mature, different from other students, and always with the unspoken understanding that this was our secret. Opening night was a triumph. Standing ovation. My parents cried. Mr. Brennan gave notes to the cast, praising everyone, but his eyes kept finding me. Later, during the cast party in the cafeteria, he pulled me aside. "My real star," he whispered. "You were luminous up there." His hand was on my lower back, pressing me close. Anyone watching would have seen a proud director congratulating his lead. They wouldn't have seen how his fingers slipped just under my shirt, touching skin. The show ran for 2 weeks. Every night, the same routine. Performance, notes, his office for private feedback. The door stayed open, but he positioned us where no one could see, where he could touch me while talking about blocking and emotion and artistic choices. "This is how real actors work," he'd say. "In the professional world, this kind of intensive coaching is normal. But high school students wouldn't understand. They'd be jealous." I believed him. Felt special. Chosen. Even as some part of me felt sick every time he touched me. After the show closed, I thought it would end. But Mr. Brennan cast me in the winter show too. Another lead. More private coaching. More exercises that required touching, closeness, secrets. By spring, I was falling apart. Grades dropping. Skipping meals. Hiding in the bathroom between classes. But on stage, I was perfect. Mr. Brennan's star. Everyone said so. The breaking point came during rehearsal for the spring musical. Mr. Brennan had started talking about summer. A special intensive program he ran. Very exclusive. He'd already talked to my parents about me attending. 2 weeks, just a small group of the most talented students, he said. We'll be staying at my family's cabin upstate. Total immersion in the craft. I knew what would happen at that cabin. Knew with absolute certainty. And for the first time, I couldn't pretend this was normal or okay or part of being an actor. That night, I told my older sister. Not everything. Just that Mr. Brennan made me uncomfortable. That I didn't want to go to his summer program. She looked at me for a long moment, then asked, "Has he touched you?" I started crying. Couldn't stop. She held me while I told her everything. Every touch, every kiss, every secret. She went to our parents that night. They went to the principal the next morning. By afternoon, I was in a room with police officers and social workers, telling the story again and again. Mr. Brennan was put on administrative leave immediately. The investigation revealed I wasn't the only one. 3 other girls came forward. One was a senior who'd been his star before me. Another was a graduate, now in college, who'd attended that summer program. His pattern was always the same. Find the talented but insecure girl. Make her feel special. Slowly normalize inappropriate touch through acting exercises. Isolate her with special attention while maintaining plausible deniability. He'd been doing it for years. The scandal destroyed the drama program. Parents who'd sung his praises now demanded to know how this could happen. How no one noticed. How he'd been allowed to spend so much time alone with students. But that was the thing. He was never technically alone with us. The door was always open. Other people were always nearby. He'd created this perfect system where everything looked appropriate from the outside. He took a plea deal. No jail time, just probation and losing his teaching license. His lawyer argued that nothing serious had happened. Just some inappropriate boundaries. The judge agreed. I had to change schools. The other students blamed me for ruining the drama program, for taking down their beloved Mr. Brennan. They said I'd misunderstood, exaggerated, wanted attention. The girl who'd played opposite me in our town told everyone I was jealous of her talent. We moved the next year. I finished high school in a different state, never set foot on a stage again. Couldn't. Every time I tried, I'd hear his voice. You're special. An old soul. This is how real actors work. I went to college, studied education, became a teacher myself, and now I watch for the signs. The teacher who has favorites, who offers special attention, who touches too much, stands too close, creates too many opportunities to be not quite alone with students. Sometimes other teachers think I'm uptight, paranoid. Why won't I tutor students in my empty classroom? Why do I insist on meeting parents if a student needs extra help? Why am I so careful about boundaries? Because I know how it happens. How someone can groom a child in plain sight. How they can make that child feel responsible, complicit, special. How they can destroy someone while everyone applauds. Mr. Brennan is still out there. Not teaching, but I've looked him up. He runs a community theater now in another state. Directs plays. Works with young actors who want to make it big. I've thought about warning them. But what would I say? That 15 years ago he touched me too much during acting exercises? That he kissed me and called me special? Sounds like nothing. It was everything. So I do what I can where I am. I keep my students safe. I maintain boundaries. I watch for predators. And sometimes when I see a shy, talented kid desperate for approval, I make sure they know they're already special. That they don't need anyone's inappropriate attention to prove it. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's what I can do. Because Mr. Brennan stole theater from me. Stole my confidence, my trust, my joy in performing. But he didn't steal my voice. And I'll use that voice to protect others from the Mr. Brennans of the world. Even if no one wants to hear it. The basketball coach. I'm 33 now and I still can't watch basketball. March Madness makes me physically ill. Even the sound of sneakers squeaking on a gym floor takes me right back to being 15, terrified, trapped in a nightmare that everyone else thought was a dream come true. It was 2007 in Indianapolis. Basketball wasn't just a sport there, it was a religion. And I was good, really good. 6 feet tall by 8th grade, could shoot from anywhere on the court. High schools were already scouting me. My parents hired Coach Walker for private training the summer before freshman year. He was a legend in Indiana basketball circles. Former college player, trained 3 kids who went to the NBA. When he agreed to work with me, my dad acted like we'd won the lottery. Coach Walker was everything you'd expect. Late 40s, still in great shape, intense but encouraging. He had this presence that made you want to work harder, be better. Our sessions were brutal but effective. My game improved dramatically. You've got what it takes, he'd say. I'm going to make you unstoppable. The training was 3 times a week at his private gym. It was about 20 minutes from our house in an industrial area. Just a warehouse he'd converted. No windows, 1 door. But it had a beautiful court, weight room, film study area. Parents weren't allowed inside during sessions. Coach said it was too distracting. My mom would drop me off, pick me up 2 hours later. I'd come out drenched in sweat, exhausted but exhilarated. She'd ask how it went. I'd say great because it was. I was getting stronger, faster, better. The first weird thing happened about a month in. We were doing post-workout stretches and Coach was adjusting my form. Normal stuff. But his hands lingered. Moved from my legs to my inner thighs. Applied pressure that felt different. Tight here, he said. We need to work on flexibility. I felt uncomfortable but didn't say anything. This was Coach Walker. He knew what my body needed to perform. The stretching sessions got longer, more hands-on. He'd have me in vulnerable positions, holding stretches while he pressed against me. Said it was resistance training. Said all his NBA players did this. Then came the supplements, special shakes he'd make for me. Said they were custom designed for my body type, my growth patterns. Expensive stuff my parents were happy to pay for. I had to drink them there right after workouts. Can't let them oxidize, he'd say, watching me finish every drop. They made me feel weird, dizzy, relaxed in a way that didn't feel right. But my game kept improving, so my parents kept paying, kept driving me to that windowless gym. One day in August, I finished my shake and felt different, heavier, like my limbs were made of lead. Coach said I'd pushed too hard, needed to rest. Led me to a room off the gym I'd never been in. Had a couch, a TV. Said I should lie down for a few minutes. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up. My shirt was off. Coach was sitting on the edge of the couch, his hand on my chest. When he saw my eyes open, he didn't move away. "Just checking your heart rate," he said calmly. "You had me worried." But his hand wasn't on my heart. And the way he was looking at me, I knew something was very wrong. I tried to sit up. The room spun. Those shakes. There was something in those shakes. "Easy," he said, pushing me back down. "You need to rest. I'll call your mom, tell her we're running late." "No, I need to go. You need to listen to your coach." His voice changed, harder. "I know what's best for your body, your career, your future." He started talking about college scholarships, NBA potential, how he could make it all happen or make it all go away, how my parents had invested so much money, how disappointed they'd be if I quit now. While he talked, his hand moved, down my chest, to my stomach, lower. I grabbed his wrist. "Stop." He laughed. "You're stronger. Good. But not strong enough. Not yet." I was trapped, drugged, alone with him in a locked building. And he was right, I wasn't strong enough. What happened next? I can't write it all. Can't relive it all. But I survived it. Survived him. Survived that room. When my mom picked me up, I could barely walk straight. Coach told her I'd pushed myself too hard. Classic teenage ego. Needed to be more careful. She lectured me the whole drive home about listening to my body, not being stupid. I threw up as soon as we got home. Locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed. My dad knocked, asked if I was okay. I said yes. What else could I say? Coach Walker drugged me and I couldn't even think the words, let alone say them. The next training day I refused to go. Said I was sick. My parents were furious. "Do you know how much we're paying? Do you know how lucky you are? Do you know what other kids would give for this opportunity?" I knew. But I also knew what Coach Walker would take. Finally, I broke. Told them I didn't want to play basketball anymore. Just done. Quit. My dad went ballistic. All that talent, all that money, all that time, wasted. My mom cried. That's what happened. What changed? I couldn't tell them. Couldn't find the words. So I just stopped talking. Stopped eating. Stopped leaving my room. 2 weeks later, Coach Walker called the house. My parents put him on speaker so they could both talk to him. He was concerned, he said. Worried about me. I'd been doing so well. Had so much potential. Maybe I just needed a break? He could reduce the training to once a week. Give me space to love the game again. Or, he added, I could stop by the house. Talk to him one-on-one. Sometimes boys this age need. No. I screamed from the top of the stairs. Don't let him come here. Don't let him near me. My parents stared at me. Coach Walker was quiet on the phone. Then he said very calmly, sounds like he's going through something. Teenagers, right? Let me know if you change your minds. After he hung up, my parents cornered me, demanded answers. And finally, haltingly, I told them, not everything, but enough. My dad's face went from confused to horrified to murderous in seconds. My mom just kept saying no over and over. They called the police that night. The investigation revealed the horrible truth. I wasn't the first. Coach Walker had been doing this for years. Different cities, different gyms, different boys. Always the same pattern. Gain trust, isolate, drug, assault, threaten. They found videos in his house. He'd recorded some of it. I was lucky, mine wasn't there. But others were. Boys from years past. Some still playing college ball. Some who'd quit basketball entirely like I was planning to. The trial was hell. His lawyer painted me as a failed athlete looking for someone to blame. Questioned why I went back. Why I didn't tell immediately. Why there was no physical evidence from that day. But the other victims testified too. The videos were undeniable. Coach Walker got 40 years. He'll die in prison. I thought that would make me feel better. It didn't. Basketball was still ruined. My body still felt like a crime scene. My parents still looked at me with this mixture of guilt and pity that made me want to scream. I finished high school quietly. No sports. Few friends. Went to college out of state where no one knew I used to be a basketball star. Studied computer science. Solo. No coaches. No teams. It took years of therapy to even say the word rape out loud. To stop blaming myself for the shakes, the training, the trust. To understand that what happened wasn't about basketball or potential or anything I did. It was about a predator who used the thing I loved most to destroy me. I work in IT now. Good job. Quiet life. I've told exactly 3 people the whole story, my therapist, my wife, and now whoever reads this. Sometimes I dream about who I could have been. The player. The star. The kid who loved basketball more than breathing. But Coach Walker killed that kid in a windowless gym in Indianapolis. What survived was different. Harder. Warier. I don't trust easily. Don't like being alone with authority figures. Don't drink anything I didn't make myself. But I survived. That's more than Coach Walker expected. More than he wanted. He thought he could use my dreams against me, make me complicit in my own destruction. He was wrong. I may never play basketball again. May never watch it without feeling sick. But I'm here. I'm alive. And he's in a cage where he can't hurt any more boys. Sometimes that has to be enough. Sometimes survival is its own kind of victory. The church retreat. I'm 30 now, working as a nurse in Portland. Far from the small Texas town where this happened. Far from the church that was my whole world at 15. But some nights, when it's quiet at the hospital and I'm doing rounds, I still hear those hymns in my head. Still feel that particular kind of fear that comes wrapped in faith and tied with scripture. It was February 2010. Our youth group was going on a winter retreat to Camp Gilead, about 3 hours from Houston. I've been looking forward to it for months. 3 days away from home, from school, from everything. Just worship and fellowship and fun with my church friends. Brother Thomas was leading the retreat. He wasn't our main youth pastor. He was the assistant, the cool one. Early 30s, played guitar, had tattoos from before he was saved. He made Christianity feel less stuffy, more real. All the kids loved him. The camp was isolated, deep in the piney woods. No cell service. Barely any electricity. Just cabins and a meeting hall and a lake that was too cold to swim in. There were about 40 of us, split between boys and girls' cabins. Everything started normal. Worship sessions, Bible study, capture the flag. Brother Thomas led amazing discussions about faith and doubt and growing up. He had this way of making you feel like he really understood the struggles of being a teenager. Saturday night was supposed to be the highlight. A special service under the stars. Testimonies around the bonfire. But during dinner, Brother Thomas pulled me aside. "Rachel, can I talk to you for a minute?" We stepped outside the dining hall. He looked concerned. "I've been praying about this all day," he said. "God's put something on my heart about you. I think you're being called to a special purpose, but there's something blocking it. Some sin or struggle you haven't confessed." My stomach dropped. Was it that obvious? Could he tell just by looking at me what I'd been struggling with? See, I'd been having doubts. About God, about faith, about everything I'd been taught. And worse, I'd been having feelings. For my friend Emma. Feelings I knew were wrong, sinful, abomination. "I can see it in your spirit," Brother Thomas continued. "You're carrying something heavy. God wants to free you, but you need to confess. Full confession. Hold nothing back." He said we should pray about it. Suggested we meet later, after the bonfire, for intensive prayer and counseling. Said sometimes these things required privacy, away from the distractions of the group. I agreed. I was desperate to be free of these feelings, these doubts. If Brother Thomas could help. The bonfire service was beautiful. Kids sharing testimonies, crying, recommitting their lives to Christ. I sat there feeling like a fraud, counting down to my meeting with Brother Thomas. At 10 p.m., when everyone was heading back to cabins, he motioned for me to follow him. We walked past the buildings to a small prayer chapel in the woods. Just a one-room building with a cross and some kneeling benches. Sometimes deliverance requires isolation, he explained, lighting a candle. Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray. We knelt at the benches. He started praying over me, hands on my head. Normal at first. Asking God to reveal hidden sins, to break chains, to set me free. Now, he said, confess. Everything. God is listening through me. So I confessed. The doubts. The questions. And finally, trembling, the feelings for Emma. The shame poured out of me in waves. Brother Thomas's hands tightened on my head. This is serious, deeper than I thought. This kind of demon requires special deliverance. Demon? I started to pull back, but he held me firm. Don't resist the Spirit, he warned. This is spiritual warfare now. He started praying in tongues. Loudly. His hands moved from my head to my shoulders, shaking me. Then to my throat. Then lower. The demon of homosexuality often resides in the body, he said. We need to cast it out from where it hides. I froze. This wasn't prayer. This wasn't deliverance. His hands were under my shirt now, moving in ways that had nothing to do with casting out demons. "Stop," I whispered. "That's the demon talking. Fight it." I tried to stand, but he pushed me down. He was stronger, heavier. The small chapel felt like a cage. "Please?" "Silence gives Satan power. Pray with me." His voice was different now, breathless. "Repeat after me. I renounce the spirit of perversion." I couldn't speak. His hands were everywhere. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not in a chapel. Not with Brother Thomas. Then we heard voices outside. Flashlights through the window. Someone calling my name. Brother Thomas jumped back like he'd been burned. Quickly straightened his clothes, ran his hands through his hair. The mask of concerned youth leader sliding back into place. The door opened. It was Sister Margaret, the senior women's counselor, with Emma beside her. "Rachel, there you are. You missed bed check." She stopped, taking in the scene. Me on my knees, crying. Brother Thomas standing too close, breathing too hard. "We were having a deliverance session," he said smoothly. "Rachel's been struggling with some deep spiritual issues." Sister Margaret's eyes narrowed. She'd been doing youth ministry for 30 years. She knew what deliverance looked like. This wasn't it. "Rachel, come with me. Now." I stumbled to my feet, ran to her. Emma grabbed my hand. Behind us, Brother Thomas was talking fast about spiritual warfare and the importance of completing the process. Sister Margaret walked us back in silence. At the girls' cabin, she sat me down. "What happened?" I couldn't say it, couldn't form the words, but she saw the marks on my neck, the torn collar, the way I shook. "Emma, go get the camp director. Tell him we need to leave. Family emergency." "But now," Emma ran. Sister Margaret wrapped me in a blanket, held me while I sobbed. She didn't ask any more questions. Just held me and prayed, real prayers, safe prayers, nothing like what had just happened. Within an hour, we were in Sister Margaret's car heading home. She told the director I'd gotten word of a family emergency. Brother Thomas had protested, said I needed to finish the deliverance. The director, confused, had deferred to Sister Margaret's seniority. She drove me straight to my house, walked me to the door. My parents were shocked. I wasn't supposed to be home until Sunday afternoon. "We need to talk," Sister Margaret told them. "All of us. Now." That conversation was one of the hardest of my life. Telling my parents what happened. What almost happened. Watching my father's face go from confusion to rage. My mother crying, blaming herself for not seeing what Brother Thomas really was. They wanted to go to the police immediately, but I begged them not to. I was terrified of everyone knowing, of having to tell that story over and over, of being the girl who accused a youth leader of... I couldn't even think the word. We compromised. My parents went to the senior pastor, told him everything, demanded Brother Thomas be removed immediately. The church's response broke what was left of my faith. They said it was a misunderstanding. That Brother Thomas's deliverance methods were unconventional but well-intentioned. That I was confused, mixing up spiritual and physical sensations. That teenagers often misinterpret intense prayer experiences. Brother Thomas gave his own version. Said I'd confessed homosexual desires and he was trying to help. That I'd become hysterical during prayer. That he'd never touched me inappropriately. Sister Margaret hadn't actually seen anything, had she? The church offered a compromise. Brother Thomas would take a leave of absence. Get some additional training. I should get counseling. They'd pay for it as long as I used their approved Christian counselor. My parents pulled us out of that church immediately. But the damage was done. Word spread. I was the girl who tried to seduce Brother Thomas. Or the girl who was gay. Or the girl who lied about a man of God. Emma wasn't allowed to talk to me anymore. Her parents said I was a bad influence. Most of my church friends vanished overnight. We found a new church, but I couldn't do it. Couldn't sit through services. Couldn't hear scripture without thinking of his hands. Couldn't pray without hearing his voice telling me the demon was in my body. I found out later I wasn't the first. 2 other girls came forward after I did, privately to their parents. Similar stories. Prayer sessions that turned physical. Deliverance that required touching. But their parents kept it quiet too. Didn't want to hurt the church. Didn't want their daughters labeled. Brother Thomas quietly left town 6 months later. Got a youth pastor position at a church in Arkansas. I checked a few years ago, he's still there. Still working with teenagers. Still offering private prayer sessions. I lost my faith that night in the chapel. Not in God exactly, but in the people who claim to speak for him. Who use his words to justify their sins. Who prey on the vulnerable in places that should be safe. It took years of therapy, real therapy, not the Christian counseling the church offered, to understand what happened. To use words like assault and trauma. To stop blaming myself for confessing, for trusting, for being alone with him. I came out in college. Turns out those feelings for Emma weren't demons to be cast out. They were just me. Human. Normal. Worthy of love without deliverance. I still have faith in my own way. But I'll never again confuse human religious leaders with the divine. Never again let someone tell me my body is sinful while they sin against it. Never again be silent when power dressed as piety tries to consume the innocent. Sister Margaret saved me that night. An elderly woman with arthritis and a bad hip who somehow knew to come looking. Who knew what to see and how to act. Who chose protecting a child over protecting the church. She died 3 years ago. I spoke at her funeral. Told a room full of church people that she was the only one who acted like Jesus that night. That she saved my life and my soul, not through prayer or deliverance, but through action and courage. Some people walked out, but some stayed. Some cried. Some came up after and whispered their own stories. Their own brother Thomases. Their own nights in isolated chapels. We are legion, the survivors of spiritual abuse. Walking wounded who learned too young that predators don't just lurk in dark alleys. Sometimes they stand at pulpits. Sometimes they hold Bibles. Sometimes they pray while they pray. But we survive. We speak. We refuse to be silent sacrifices on the altar of institutional protection. And maybe, just maybe, our voices will save the next 15-year-old girl who just wants to be free. The tutoring sessions. I'm 28 now, teaching high school math in Boston. Every day I stand in front of teenagers and I see myself at that age. Eager to please. Desperate to succeed. Willing to trust anyone who offered to help. It makes me vigilant in ways my colleagues don't understand. Why I never tutor students alone. Why I insist on windows and doors. Why I document everything. They think I'm paranoid. They didn't sit in Ms. Martinez's house at 16, realizing too late that academic help had become something else entirely. It was 2012, junior year in Sacramento. The most important year, everyone said. The year that determined your future. I was drowning in AP classes, SAT prep, college pressure. Good at humanities but struggling hard in chemistry. Ms. Martinez was the AP Chem teacher. Tough but brilliant. Yale undergrad, Berkeley PhD. She had a reputation for turning C students into A students. Also for playing favorites, but that seemed normal. Every teacher had pets. When she offered to tutor me privately for free, I couldn't believe my luck. Said she saw potential in me. That with some extra help, I could ace the AP exam, maybe even major in science. But we'll need to meet off campus, she explained. Union rules about paid tutoring. This has to be just me helping a promising student on my own time. My parents were thrilled. Private tutoring from a PhD? For free? They practically drove me to her house themselves that first Saturday. Her home was beautiful. Modern, minimalist, full of books and art. She lived alone. Divorced, she mentioned casually. We worked at her dining room table, textbooks spread between us. She was an amazing teacher one-on-one. Patient, clear, making complex concepts suddenly simple. After 2 hours, she made lunch. Insisted I stay. We ate and talked about college, careers, life. She was interested in my thoughts in a way adults rarely were. Treated me like an equal, not a kid. This became our routine. Every Saturday, sometimes Sundays too. Chemistry lessons that drifted into life lessons. Lunch that turned into long conversations. I started looking forward to it all week. My grades improved dramatically. But more than that, I felt special. Chosen. Ms. Martinez, Elena, she insisted I call her at her house. Said I was one of the most intelligent students she'd ever taught. That I thought on a level beyond my peers. The shift was so gradual I didn't notice it happening. The dining room sessions moved to her living room. More comfortable, she said. We'd sit on the couch, books on the coffee table. Then the books stayed closed more often. Just talking. About everything. She started sharing personal things. Her difficult divorce. Her loneliness. How teaching was fulfilling but left her feeling isolated. How refreshing it was to have someone to really talk to. You're so mature, she'd say. Sometimes I forget you're only 16. The compliments increased. Not just about my mind anymore. How I was growing into myself. How college boys wouldn't know what to do with someone like me. How I deserved someone who could appreciate my depth. One Saturday in March, she opened wine with lunch. You're practically an adult. In Europe, this would be normal. I felt sophisticated, special. The wine made me warm and relaxed. That day, sitting closer than usual on the couch, she told me she was attracted to me. Had been fighting it for months. Knew it was inappropriate but couldn't help how she felt. "You feel it too," she said. "I can tell. The way you look at me. The way you light up when you're here." I was confused. Did I feel it? I admired her. Looked forward to seeing her. Felt flattered by her attention. Was that attraction? She kissed me, soft, careful. Then pulled back, searching my face. "Tell me to stop," she said. "If you want me to stop, I will. We'll go back to just chemistry. But I don't think you want me to stop." I didn't tell her to stop. I was 16, drunk on wine and attention and the idea that this brilliant, beautiful woman wanted me. That I was special enough, mature enough for this. The tutoring sessions became something else. We still studied sometimes, but mostly we didn't. She was careful. No marks, nothing that would show. Always reminding me that this had to be our secret. That people wouldn't understand. That they'd try to reduce what we had to something ugly. They'd call me a predator, she laughed once. "As if you're not the one with all the power here. You could destroy my life with one word." That scared me. I didn't want to destroy her. I cared about her. Maybe loved her. She said she loved me. Said when I turned 18 we could be together properly. Maybe I'd even go to Berkeley, be near her. My parents noticed changes. I was distracted, secretive. But my chemistry grade was an A, so they didn't probe too hard. Teenage stuff, they figured. The end came in May. AP exams were over, college applications months away. I told Elena maybe we should take a break from tutoring. I was feeling overwhelmed, confused. Needed space to think. Her face changed. The warmth disappeared. "You're done with me? Now that you got what you needed?" "No, I risked everything for you. My job, my reputation, my freedom. And you're what, bored now?" I tried to explain, but she wasn't listening. She was pacing, ranting. About ungrateful teenagers. About how I'd pursued her. About how she had evidence, texts I'd sent, gifts I'd given her, the way I'd never said no. "If you try to end this," she said coldly, "I'll tell everyone you seduced me. Who do you think they'll believe? The respected teacher or the teenage girl with a crush?" I left her house terrified. She had all our texts but taken out of context, edited carefully. They could look bad. I had thanked her for attention. Said I cared about her. Sent hearts and smiley faces like I did with all my friends, but it would look different to outside eyes. She texted constantly after that, alternating between love and threats. Saying she was sorry, she loved me, couldn't lose me. Then saying she'd ruin me if I abandoned her. My phone became a source of terror. Finally I broke. Told my mom everything. Showed her the text. Watched her face go from confusion to horror to rage. My parents handled it quietly at first. Went to the principal with the text. But Elena was ready. She had her own version. The troubled student with a crush. The dedicated teacher trying to help. The ungrateful family turning on her when grades improved and tutoring was no longer needed. She deleted her worst texts. Kept only mine. Out of context, I looked obsessed with her. The principal, a man who'd known Elena for years, believed her. But my parents didn't give up. They hired a lawyer. Found other students who'd noticed things. Elena's favorites who she'd text late at night. Girls who'd been invited to her house but felt uncomfortable and declined. A pattern emerged. The school board quietly encouraged Elena to resign. No charges filed. Not enough evidence, they said. She left town, got a teaching job 2 states away. Last I checked, she's still teaching. Still has favorite students. Still offers private tutoring. I finished senior year at a different school. Got into a good college far from California. Majored in math, not chemistry. Never took another chem class. In therapy, I learned the word grooming. Learned how predators work. The slow build of trust. The gradual boundary crossing. The way they make you feel complicit, responsible. The threats disguised as love. I became a teacher because I wanted to be what Elena pretended to be. Someone who actually helps students. Who maintains boundaries. Who remembers that the power imbalance between teacher and student is real and unchangeable, no matter how mature the student seems. Sometimes I see it in my students, that hunger for approval, that willingness to trust. And I'm careful, so careful. I help them with math and nothing else. I keep my distance. I document everything. My colleagues think I'm cold. But I know what happens when teachers get too warm. When admiration becomes adoration becomes exploitation. Elena taught me chemistry and so much more. She taught me that predators come in all forms. That brilliance and manipulation often go hand in hand. That sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones offering to help you succeed. She taught me to question gifts that seem too good to be true. Because they usually are. And the price is always higher than you think. The family friend. I'm 36 now with teenagers of my own. They think I'm overprotective, especially about sleepovers and family friends. They don't understand why I need to meet everyone, why I ask so many questions, why I trust so slowly. They don't know about Mr. Garrett, and I pray they never need to. It was 2002 in suburban Dallas. I was 14, awkward and bookish, more comfortable with fantasy novels than real people. My parents were social butterflies, dinner parties every weekend, barbecues, game nights. Our house was always full of their friends. Mr. Garrett was one of the regulars. My dad's college roommate, recently divorced and moved back to Texas. He was fun in that uncle who's naturally your uncle way. Brought me books, talked to me about Lord of the Rings, actually listened when I rambled about whatever I was obsessed with that week. "You've got an old soul, kiddo," he'd say. "Too smart for these other kids." When my parents went on their anniversary cruise that summer, Mr. Garrett volunteered to stay with me. My older brother was at football camp, and they didn't want to leave me alone for a week. I was actually excited. A whole week of takeout and movies and staying up late talking about books. The first few days were great. He let me pick all the movies, ordered pizza every night, didn't make me do my summer reading. We'd stay up until 2 a.m. discussing whether Tolkien or Lewis was the better writer. I felt so adult, so seen. On the fourth night, things changed. We were watching a movie, some R-rated thriller he said I was mature enough for. There was a sex scene. I felt awkward, wanted to fast forward, but didn't want to seem like a baby. "Have you ever kissed anyone?" he asked suddenly. I shook my head, embarrassed. "That's surprising. Pretty girl like you. The boys at your school must be idiots." I mumbled something about focusing on grades. He laughed. "Always so serious. You need to learn to relax. Here." He poured himself whiskey, then poured some in a glass for me. "Just a little. Help you loosen up." I'd never drunk alcohol before. It burned going down. Made me cough. He laughed again, rubbed my back. "Small sips. There you go." We kept watching the movie. He kept refilling my glass. The room started spinning pleasantly. I felt warm, loose, happy. When he put his arm around me, it felt natural. "Say, you know," he said, "you're nothing like other 14-year-olds. You're special. I've always known that." His hand was in my hair, playing with it. Felt nice. Everything felt nice. Fuzzy. Soft. "I could teach you things," he continued. "About kissing. About more. Wouldn't you like to be experienced when you start dating? To know what you're doing?" Some part of me knew this was wrong. But the bigger part, the drunk part, was flattered. Special. Chosen. He kissed me. Not like I'd imagined my first kiss would be. Too wet, too aggressive, tasting like whiskey and cigarettes. His hands were everywhere, under my shirt, fumbling with my bra. "Wait," I tried to say, but it came out slurred. "Shoo, trust me. I'll take care of you." I was so drunk. The room wouldn't stop spinning. I couldn't make my arms work right to push him away. He kept saying I was beautiful, special, that this was what I wanted. That I'd been flirting with him all week. Had I been flirting? I couldn't think straight. Everything was happening so fast and so slow at the same time. Then I threw up. All over him, all over the couch, all over myself. The pizza and whiskey and fear all coming up at once. He jumped back, cursing. I was crying, apologizing, so embarrassed I wanted to die. He helped me to the bathroom, held my hair while I threw up more. By the time I was done, I was sober enough to be terrified. "Let's get you cleaned up," he said, his voice different now, colder. "And we'll never speak of this again. You got drunk and got sick. That's all. Understand?" I nodded, still crying. "If you tell anyone about the other stuff, who do you think they'll believe? You've been flirting with me all week. Coming out here in those little shorts, sitting so close, always wanting my attention. Your parents will think you're a slut. They'll be so disappointed." I showered while he cleaned the living room. When I came out, he was back to normal Mr. Garrett. Concerned, helpful. Made me drink water, take aspirin. Tucked me into bed like nothing had happened. "Just too much alcohol for a little girl," he said. "We'll stick to soda from now on." The last 3 days were torture. He acted completely normal. Friendly but distant. Never mentioned that night. But I caught him watching me sometimes, and his eyes were different. Calculating. I stayed in my room as much as possible. Said I didn't feel well. He'd check on me, bring me food, act the concerned caretaker. My parents called daily, and he'd give cheerful reports about how well everything was going. When my parents came home, tanned and happy, Mr. Garrett told them I'd been perfect all week. Maybe a little moody, teenage stuff, but overall great. They were so grateful to him for taking care of me. I never told them. How could I? I'd been drinking. I'd been wearing shorts. I'd stayed up late with him, sat close to him, laughed at his jokes. I'd let him kiss me for a few seconds before my body rebelled. What if they blamed me? Mr. Garrett kept coming around after that. Less frequently, but still there. Always friendly, always appropriate when others were around. But sometimes he'd catch me alone, in the kitchen, in the hallway, and whisper things. Our little secret. You wanted it. Such a tease. No one would believe you. I started having panic attacks. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. My grades dropped. My parents took me to a doctor, then a therapist. I sat in that office week after week, wanting to tell, but the words wouldn't come. What if the therapist told my parents? What if they thought I was dirty? What if Mr. Garrett found out? It took 2 years before I finally broke. I was 16 in a support group for anxiety at school. Another girl was talking about her uncle, how he'd touched her, how she'd blamed herself for years. And suddenly I was sobbing, telling these strangers what I couldn't tell anyone else. The counselor helped me tell my parents. It was exactly as horrible as I'd imagined. My mom cried. My dad punched a wall. They blamed themselves, blamed Mr. Garrett, but I could see the questions in their eyes. Why didn't you tell us? Why did you drink? What exactly happened? They confronted Mr. Garrett. He denied everything. Said I'd had a crush on him, that he'd rejected me gently, that I must be confused or vindictive. Reminded them how much I'd been struggling mentally. How I'd always been dramatic, living in fantasy worlds. Without proof, without immediate disclosure, there was nothing legal to be done. My parents cut him off, but the friend circle split. Some believed him. Some believed me. Most just wanted to avoid the drama. We moved the next year. Fresh start, my parents said. But you can't move away from memories. From the taste of whiskey that still makes me gag. From the feeling of hands where they shouldn't be. From the voice in your head saying you asked for it. I found out years later that Mr. Garrett had done it before. His divorce? It was because his wife caught him with their teenage neighbor. The girl's family didn't press charges. Too messy, too hard to prove. Just made him move away. And he'll do it again. Men like him always do. They find the awkward girls, the ones desperate for attention and approval. They groom them with kindness and interest. They wait for the perfect moment. Parents away, alcohol available, trust established. They make you complicit in your own assault. I have daughters now, 14 and 16. Same age as I was then. They think I'm paranoid about their safety. Overprotective about who comes in our house. Weird about alcohol and older men and family friends. They don't know that when I look at them, I see myself. Trusting. Eager to be seen as mature. Willing to ignore red flags for the sake of feeling special. Mr. Garrett taught me that predators don't always look like predators. Sometimes they look like family friends. Sometimes they bring you books and listen to your thoughts and make you feel heard. Sometimes they wait patiently, building trust, until the perfect opportunity presents itself. And then they strike. And then they make you blame yourself. And then they count on your shame to keep you silent. I'm not silent anymore. But sometimes in my nightmares, I'm 14 again. Drunk and confused and trapped on a couch with someone I trusted. Unable to speak, unable to move, unable to stop what's happening. In the nightmares, I don't throw up. In the nightmares, no one saves me. I wake up gasping, grateful for my body's rebellion that night. Grateful that getting sick stopped what could have been so much worse. But I still live with what did happen. With the shame and self-blame that took years of therapy to even begin to unravel. With the knowledge that he's out there somewhere, probably setting his sights on another awkward girl who just wants someone to see her as special. I hope she throws up on him too. I hope her body saves her like mine saved me. I hope she tells someone sooner than I did. But mostly, I hope she never meets him at all. The online friend. I'm 29 now, working in cybersecurity. There's probably some psychology to that. Spending my adult life protecting people from digital threats because no one protected me from mine. My colleagues think I'm obsessive about online safety. They have no idea how personal it is. It was 2009. I was 15, living in rural Oregon. The kind of small town where everyone knows everyone, where nothing ever happens, where the internet was the only window to a bigger world. I spent hours online, forums, chat rooms, early social media. It was where I felt like myself. His username was BookwormDan95. We met in a Harry Potter forum, arguing about whether Snape was really a villain. He was funny, smart, got all my references. Said he was 17, lived in California, was planning to major in English at Berkeley. We moved from forum posts to private messages, then to AIM chat, then to texting. Within a month, we were talking every day. He understood me in a way no one in my real life did. He loved the same books, the same music, the same movies. He thought my writing was brilliant. He said I was mature for my age. The photos he sent matched his story. Cute in a nerdy way. Glasses, messy hair, band t-shirts. He sent pictures from school, from concerts, from family trips. Normal teenage stuff. I sent photos too. Nothing inappropriate, just face shots, pictures with my dog. You're so beautiful, he'd text. The guys at your school are idiots if they can't see it. I'd never had a boyfriend. Never been kissed. Boys at my school thought I was weird, too quiet, too bookish, too everything. But Dan thought I was perfect. We talked about meeting. He said he'd drive up when he turned 18 after graduation. Take me to prom if I wanted. Be my first kiss. We planned it all out. What I'd wear. Where we'd go. How he'd charm my parents. 6 months in, the conversation shifted. He started asking about my experience. Had I ever sent photos to anyone? Did I know how beautiful my body probably was? Had I ever touched myself while thinking of him? I was embarrassed but also thrilled. This older, cool guy wanted me. Was willing to wait for me. The questions felt intimate, not creepy. He never pushed, just suggested. Made it seem like my idea. I wish I could see more of you, he'd say. But only if you want to. No pressure. I'd wait forever for you. I sent a photo in my bra. Spent an hour taking it, making sure the angle was right, that I looked pretty. He said it was the sexiest thing he'd ever seen. That I was perfect. That he was falling in love with me. The photos escalated slowly. Each one earning more praise, more declarations of love. He sent photos too, shirtless ones that made me blush. Said it was only fair. Said this was what couples did when they couldn't be together. When we meet, he'd promise, it'll be perfect. Worth the wait. My parents had no idea. I was careful, deleted everything, used apps they didn't know about. I was getting straight A's, doing my chores. They had no reason to suspect their good girl was sending increasingly explicit photos to someone she'd never met. The summer before my junior year, everything changed. Dan said he'd gotten early admission to Berkeley. Was moving to California early. Could finally visit on his way. My parents were going to a wedding in Portland. I'd have the house to myself for a weekend. It was perfect. Are you sure you're ready? He asked. We can just hang out if you want. I just need to see you. To hold you. I've waited so long. I was ready. I thought. I cleaned the house, bought new underwear with babysitting money, shaved everything. I was nervous but excited. Finally, I'd have a boyfriend. A real relationship. Someone who loved me. He said he'd arrive Saturday afternoon. I waited by the window watching for his car. A blue Honda, he told me. Heart racing every time a car passed. 3 p.m. came and went. Then 4. Then 5. I texted him. No response. Called. Straight to voicemail. By 8 p.m. I was in tears. Had he gotten in an accident? Changed his mind? Was I that unlovable that even someone who claimed to love me couldn't bother to show up? Then I got an email. From an address I didn't recognize. Check your Facebook messages. Now. I logged in to find a message from a woman I'd never heard of. Emma Martinez. Hi. You don't know me, but I know who you are. The person you know as Bookworm Dan 95 is my husband. He's 43 years old. We have 2 children. I found your photos on his computer. The room tilted. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. There were more messages. Emma had found everything. The photos, the conversations, the plans to meet. She'd gone through his computer after getting suspicious about his work trips. Found folders of girls. Dozens of us. All thinking we were special. All thinking we were in love with teenage Dan from California. She sent me a photo of the real him. Balding, heavy, wearing a wedding ring. Nothing like the photos he'd sent. Those, she explained, were of her nephew. He'd stolen them from her sister's Facebook. I'm contacting all the girls I can find, her message said. I've already called the police. They'll probably be contacting you. I'm sorry this happened to you. It's not your fault. The police did contact me, and my parents, and suddenly my secret online life was exposed in the worst possible way. They found the photos I'd sent, the explicit conversations, the plans to meet. I had to tell my parents everything. Watch my dad cry for the first time in my life. Listen to my mom ask over and over why I didn't tell them, how I could be so stupid. Didn't I know about online predators? I did know. But Dan wasn't a predator. He was my boyfriend. He loved me. We were going to be together. I wasn't like those stupid girls who fell for obvious creeps. I was smart, careful. I'd known him for over a year. Except I hadn't known him at all. The investigation revealed the terrifying scope. He'd been doing this for years. Dozens of girls across the country. All 14 to 16. All lonely, smart, misunderstood. He had a whole system. Fake photos, fake social media, burner phones. He'd meet them in forums based on their interests, build trust slowly, escalate carefully. Some girls he'd actually met. Those testimonies were the worst part of the trial. What he'd done to them. How different he was in person. How trapped they'd felt. How he'd used their photos as blackmail to keep them quiet. I was lucky. Emma found out before he could get to me. Before my weekend alone turned into a nightmare. But I still had to testify. Had to sit in a courtroom and describe every photo, every conversation. Had to face him, the real him, and see him smirk as I talked about believing in our love. He got 15 years. Not enough, but something. Emma divorced him, moved away with the kids. Sent me one last message saying she was sorry, that she hoped I could heal. I did heal. Slowly. Therapy helped. Moving for college helped. Building real relationships with people I could see and touch helped. But I can't forget. Can't forget how real it felt. How smart I thought I was. How every manipulation seemed like love at the time. I work in cybersecurity now, like I said. Specialize in protecting kids online. I give talks at schools trying to warn them without scaring them. Trying to explain that predators don't always seem like predators. That they can spend months, even years, building trust. That they know exactly what lonely kids need to hear. Parents always ask how to protect their children. I tell them, don't just monitor. Don't listen. Know that smart kids are often the most vulnerable because they think they can't be fooled. Know that predators are patient, clever, and constantly evolving. And know that it's not about stupidity or naivety. I was a straight A student. I knew about stranger danger. I'd read the warnings about online predators. But Bookworm Dan 95 wasn't a stranger. He was my best friend. My first love. The only person who understood me. Until he wasn't. Until he never was. Sometimes I still dream about that Saturday. Waiting by the window for a blue Honda that was never going to come. In the dreams it does come. And the real him gets out. And I let him in because I still believe. I wake up grateful for Emma Martinez. A woman I've never met who saved me from my own trust. Who did the hard thing, the right thing, even as her world was falling apart. She saved me from learning the hard way that love from strangers online isn't love at all. It's just bait. And I almost swallowed it whole. These stories are hard to tell. But silence protects predators, not victims. Every story shared, every warning given, every conversation started might be the thing that saves someone else. Trust your instincts. Tell trusted adults. Remember that real love doesn't require secrets, doesn't rush, doesn't make you feel ashamed. And know that if something has happened to you, if someone has hurt you, it's not your fault. It's never your fault. You deserve to be heard, believed, and protected. The monsters of our teenage years want us silent. Our voices, our stories, our refusal to carry their shame, that's how we fight back. That's how we win.